What's up, everybody? This is Jay Wicker with Small Business
Hello.
Stand Up, and I got some phenomenal co-hosts with me. So from the top
Yeah.
to the bottom, tell them where you located at, what do you do, and all that good stuff. Start at the
Okay,
very
my
top
name.
with you, Miss Angel.
Okay, my name's Angel. I am from Panama. I'm basically out here in Atlanta, Georgia. I do a little bit of investments. I help out people that are doing publishing for their books, business development, anything that I can do to help you push your dreams, manifest those things that you're trying to do in your business. I'm here to help you. And you can always reach me at Love JC Realty on Facebook or on Instagram.
Salute,
Is it
salute.
me now?
Your turn, Miss Sheila. Yep.
Hello, everyone. I am Miss Sheila Little, and today I want to introduce myself as the friend and expert leader in the field of changing lives. And how I do that is through my company, Shaping Solutions, where we do consulting. So I help individuals with problems and we consult them and find solutions, and then some mindset work. So I do some coaching to help individuals gain the right mindset. And then I do some therapy, some therapeutic techniques to help heal some spaces that they may otherwise have not addressed on their journey to transformation. So I thank you guys for being here. Oh, and I've been a therapist for
Welcome.
20 years, and I am a PhD candidate in business psychology.
Just that. Look, that's
Hey,
a good thing.
just slide that on out
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know what that is in my shirt. Okay.
All right, it's on you, Jay.
Uh, my name is Jonathan Smith. I go by Johnny Leverage. I am a wealth strategist and trust consultant with Eniad Infinite. Um, we're a financial services and business advisory firm. What we do is we help successful entrepreneurs and business owners spend less time wondering about key financial decisions and more time focusing on what it really takes to grow their operations and thrive. We like to focus on the end goal. Why did you get into business? And really, I don't like to call it retirement. I like to think of doing what excites you. So in a lot of cases, people start businesses and you know the logistics business may be awesome. It may be booming, but you really don't want to drive trucks for the rest of your life, nor do you really want to focus on trucks. So we focus on strategies using various vehicles to help our clients just achieve results so that way they can spend their time the way they want to and pass their assets, their legacy on to the next generation and really make their name last throughout the generation. So yeah, that's what we do.
Look,
Wow.
man, I think that should be key for everybody, man, who's working, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I say everybody personally, this business or working or whatever the case is, right? You should be wanting to get yourself in a situation where you can take care of yourself for the rest of your life, right? Whether that's through investments or whatever, right? You should want to do that, man. And it's what I've learned just by having conversations every week with Johnny, man, and on the phone talking to him. It's some things that they do, man, that a lot we miss that we miss. You know what I'm saying? Johnny is the plug, man. Just keep it real. You the plug, bro.
That's awesome.
So yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Thank you.
So his name is Johnny Smith, right? But we call
Yeah.
him Johnny Leverage. Don't forget that, man. It's the leverage that we talking about
Okay,
here,
Yeah,
right?
the
we
leverage right
And
create.
that's
here.
what all of us want to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we,
so I
we
was gonna
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna ask, like, is your last name Leverage? Because that is really good. Like,
no.
the
Yeah.
whole leverage thing. I
That
love
would be
that.
that we don't. We should change it. Don't
That
change it.
that's that's I
Only
guess
kidding.
my pseudonym or my alias.
Okay. All right.
When I take the glasses off, I guess then I'm Johnny Leverage. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
nah.
It's like your superpower.
The
Yeah, it's
leverage.
my
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
superpower.
yeah, yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Like
Yeah.
Clark
That sounds
Kent
like
and
a
Superman.
character.
Oh yeah. Oh
Listen,
yeah.
man, in anything that you do, right, you want to try to have the leverage, right? That's why
Mm-hmm.
that's so
Yeah.
important, man. Johnny
Mm-hmm.
leverage, man.
Yeah. Doing more
If
with
you
less.
have the leverage, you control the board,
Or
man.
less.
Yeah, you do it. The way we look at it is, because that's a term that really gets thrown around a lot in different industries. Whether you're talking real estate, my first introduction really in the finance industry was auto finance. Similar but different in a lot of aspects. Um, my brother-in-law, he does a lot of forex trading. Leverage is thrown in all of these different things, but and for the term that I think a lot of people should focus on is just being able to use something to its maximum efficiency, doing more with less. Um, you know,
About that, how are you
getting the
going to
most.
know what?
What
What's
was
up?
that? Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sound like one of our
Yeah.
old episodes. That wasn't me.
All right. But
Go
just
ahead.
creating an
Go
advantage.
ahead.
That's really what I like to think of leverage as is you giving yourself an advantage, whether that's some people create leverage. Sheila can attest to this in relationships
Yeah.
because setting boundaries is literally creating leverage in relationships because, hey, I won't deal with this. And this
Hmm.
is, once you cross this, and these people live happier lives, they've created leverage in their life. In a lot of cases, so specifically, I started off with like life insurance. And I saw that people do not create leverage with their life insurance policies. They do not have optimal policies, not the kind that you see on social media. You don't that they talk about. Most people don't have those type of policies designed, and then that just sent me down a rabbit hole. So
Yeah. So what came up in my
Sheila,
spirit
can you
was
look that up for us?
what
Go
leverage,
ahead.
the
Go ahead.
word leverage.
That was the definition. Yeah, look that up
Okay.
for us, right? So we
Yeah,
make
but
sure
what
we get
came up while I'm looking
the
it up,
technical definition.
what right, what came up in my spirit, so I'm gonna give the definition. So leverage, the extortion of force by means of a lever or object used in the manner of a lever, use borrowed capital, investment expecting a profit made to be greater than its interest payable. But I think that what came up in my mind was that thing, the whole bottle thing, right? So we use, if you try to open a bottle by yourself, you
yeah,
don't really have enough strength, right? Like if you're trying to pop off a bottle. So you take like a pop opener,
a tool.
right? And you just kind of take a little more, little less strength, and you're leveraging that machine or that tool to pop off something that you don't really have the strength to do yourself. Or we use a dolly, right, to leverage the weight of a refrigerator. You can't move that
Facts.
refrigerator by yourself, but if you had the dolly, you leverage that, you use that dolly as leverage to be able to move that. And so I think that when you talk about leverage, you are using the least amount of your energy to max, and you're taking whatever that thing is and you're using that,
Yeah.
which is making it easier for you yourself to get that job done, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
And
that's
I think
that's
everybody,
really
we
it.
leverage our skills
Yes.
for money, right? Or
Right.
to get a job or whatever the case
Well, I
is,
think
right?
we're learning how to do that, right? that's
Yeah.
that's the issue, especially I think in our culture. How do we leverage our skills to optimize our income or our lifestyle or whatever it is that we want? And I think that's what we struggle with. We don't know how to use our skills as leverage to get what we
So
Mm.
I'm
want.
gonna put this on Sheila. We need an acronym for that.
Leverage.
No, what
Yeah,
is it called? Did I say that right? Yes, you gotta break
yeah,
that
an
down for us.
acronym for
I know he
leverage.
can
So
do it.
you want
Yeah,
so you
yes.
want me to take the word leverage and make an acronym out of it. All right, come back to me
Yeah.
in 5 minutes. I'll have it for you. Yeah.
but, but
I'm gonna
listen,
have some
so
marketing
let's
material
jump into this
after
thing.
that.
And Angel, yeah, man. Angel, you have any questions? Definitely jump in at any time. You can comment if you want to. Um,
Um,
wh-
well, okay. This question, well, not necessarily question, but more so, I know you said something about the forex exchange and binary. I want to kind of see exactly what platforms you use for those things. I'm currently using Novatech. I would like to know a little bit more of, your expertise, and have you, what kind of experiences you've had with binary and doing digital investments. Because I believe that in this day and time where we're so connected to digital mining, digital coining, digital monetizations, people are looking to find how can they compress their money, make money off their money, and still live and leverage their life with all the different streams of income that they have coming in to pool common wealth, which we know
Okay.
as prosperity within life.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, so me
Yeah,
personally,
I didn't know. So yeah, unpack that
I
part.
I trade forex like on my own. The broker I actually use is KOT Forex, Kings of Transparency. I use their brokerage and I use MetaTrader 4. Um, but I mentioned earlier, so my brother-in-law, his name is Bryce Davis, and I can send you his information. He has a company called Payroll Rebels, and
Mm.
there he actually teaches people uh, how to trade forex. How to create leverage, and he uses like funded accounts, so he has a specific formula how he utilizes funded accounts to maximize the returns, and some other strategies that involve minimizing risk. So I'll gladly connect you in with him because he's the expert on that. He's actually the person who really taught me how to just trade in my own personal time.
Wow.
I'm That being said, I'm not to the point to where I'm an expert on it per se. Um,
Mhm.
I have my wins and my losses, but I can definitely link you in with the person who taught me, and who led me and gave me the strategies that I use and that I've been making money off of. I have heard of Novatech before, in which don't they get like they average like what 3% compounded like weekly?
Every Friday we get 3% of whatever earnings we have placed there for investment. Of course, it's almost like they pay us insurance money to put our monies in more. I could say more intricate platforms where Bitcoin is being shifted or invested on behalf of the members that are part of the Novatech. And because they're using our earnings and they're using our fiduciary, however you say, for their gaming, they pay us every Friday 3% of whatever it is that we have on there, and it compounds every Friday thereof.
Oh
So for a person that might put $100,000, you might get a different amount than I putting $1,000,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if you leave it there for 5 years, you're looking at 1.5 million to 5.5 million, depending if you put $1,000 to $2,500. So uh, who would not want to get paid off of their own income as they're working and still leveraging their life with different things that they're doing?
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. I think it was Jebecca, that brother Jebecca Jones. He was on here, and he and I had connected, and he was the one. He had informed me of Novatech. Only thing with me and Jay, we're in Texas. So because we're in Texas,
Yeah.
they still they're still iffy on a lot of crypto laws out here in Texas as far
mm,
as, so we're actually not even able to really participate in that aspect of it. So the solution that I've actually come up with for people like in my situation, um, we utilize life insurance. So we created a way to be able to basically flow your money through a life insurance policy. So it's
mhm.
liquid. So we're talking averaging a 3%, on average interest earned credit on every dollar that you put through your life insurance policy, which
Wow.
a lot of things people don't know are that you dictate how much money you want to go inside the policy. It's not like car insurance or some other type of insurance where they're going to tell you, okay, this is how much you're going to have to pay. With this situation, you're going to be like, okay, maybe I want to put $20,000 in annually,
Mm,
or I want to put $200,000 in. You get to dictate that. The only thing that goes along and corresponds with the amount of death benefit, which subsequently equals cost of insurance. So the more money that you have on a death benefit, the more that the insurance company is going to charge for cost of insurance. So we figure out a way to minimize that and allow your money to flow through the policy and create an average, like I said, average. In more recent times, I've seen accounts get credited like 10.5%, um,
mm,
just going through an insurance
Annually.
policy. And yeah. Well, no, this isn't
Annually.
this is so what happens is when IULs is what we use. We'll have like 12 buckets. right? So they'll measure what now is November. So they would have measured
Oh,
the change in the market from, let's say, the S&P 500 from November of 2021 to November of 2022, which just happened. And whatever that interest differential, if it's positive, you get credited that. If it's below 0%, you don't get it. It's what's called a 0% floor. So it's a way for you to basically put your money in a place where it can grow if the market allows, but then at the same time, if the market has any fluctuations or downturns, your principal is still protected because of these stipulations inside of this insurance contract. So that's one of the things where, like, when we were talking about like creating leverage, this is a way that for a lot of people they can, even for people who, let's say, can't really use credit cards per se, right? There are people who can
Mhm.
get, get a life insurance policy before they can get a credit card. So this is a way to kind of offset and even create some of those same type of situations that someone would use if they got 3% cash back on a credit card and they paid all their bills using that and took their money from their job and paid it off. So they're just different strategies we can employ that until Greg Abbott or whoever it is out here in Texas gets their act together and lets us participate in some of those 3% weekly gains. Because I'm be honest, I'm salty. I'm salty.
yeah.
I can't play in that game.
I have a question.
Wow,
So let's
3%.
just
That's
say,
crazy.
hmm um, I my mixed feelings come like, so living in a state and then having digital property or digital connections. How come it being digital increments of monies? How come the law governs what you do with your money online?
Honestly,
That's be yeah.
that's
That's
just
beyond my
bureaucracy.
expertise.
That's just what's called bureaucracy. And here's the thing. It's not that they can't govern what you do, is that they can govern whether or not Novatech can do business with people inside that have addresses, right? Because when you sign up on that website, you submit your address and they have that in their databases. Okay, we have this many clients in Georgia, this many clients in Milwaukee per se. So they can't have any in Texas, right? On as far as to my knowledge, and that's what Rebecca was telling me when I was looking at signing up, that they just can't operate inside of Texas as far as having an address here. Now, if I had a residence, in Ohio, right, and I lived and I had, I was back and forth, then I could probably, I could participate because I would be. And I'm not saying that that's what I will do or what I won't do or anything. I'm not, but I'm just saying that's what was
Yeah,
presented to me
yeah,
in that case. But as of right now, that's not necessarily a viable option.
Right, right, right.
yeah.
But
Absolutely,
yeah,
man.
uh,
That's deep there, man.
Mhm.
Oh, what did Jay said? It's based on
yeah,
the
SEC, yeah, because
SEC,
that's
on
yeah,
the
you
securities
don't want to
license to
mess with.
trade. Yeah, no, you don't play with them.
Yeah, we
They
we
don't
we
play
don't we
play.
don't
They
play
play fair.
we don't play with any of those
No, sir.
those acronyms, those
Alphabet boys.
alphabet boys.
It's the acronym
Yeah,
stage.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So look, we're
Yeah,
gonna jump right in. Some great questions though. Absolutely. So we're gonna jump right into this thing, man. So we're gonna interview Johnny a little bit, man. So he's mysterious, man. So we're gonna get to know him a little bit. Let me see if I can set this thing up for you, Jay. Give me 1 second here,
yeah.
bro.
Let's go.
Let me see here. He said he
All right.
ready. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
Awesome.
as you guys know, man, this is Johnny Smith, aka Johnny Leverage, man. As you guys can tell, man, just listen to him a few minutes ago. He know what he's talking about, you know.
Mhm.
So let's talk to him a little bit, man. So if you guys have any questions, feel free
Shoot.
to jump right in. So we want to start off, man. Where you from, bro? Where you from, man?
I am from a town called Dayton in a state called Ohio, uh,
Dayton,
commonly
Ohio.
referred to as the Gym City. That is where I spent the first 15 years of my life.
Why is it called Gym City?
Honestly, I don't know. I just
What rap crew
I mean,
came out of Dayton?
I don't necessarily know any
Mm.
rap groups.
That was
It was
that
just
was
more.
Flint. That was in Flint.
Oh, that
Dayton,
was Flint.
Yeah,
Oh, Dayton.
Top
Okay.
Authority, and yeah,
Okay.
Flint.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
yeah.
All right.
As far as I know, I grew up, seeing was it Sugarfoot from the Ohio Players walking up and down Gettysburg. So,
Yeah,
I grew up
yeah.
learning about all the bands that that came up and throughout Ohio. Listening to the Isley
They
Brothers at a
influenced,
very young age.
yeah, man.
Here,
They influenced California big time too, bro.
oh
Those bands
man,
out of Ohio influenced California big time. Yeah,
the
it's a
Chronic.
big deal.
The Chronic is
Yeah,
sampled
man.
by it's mostly bands from Ohio that were sampled. Bootsy Collins.
Yeah,
You catch
Ohio
that's a
players.
lot of that funk,
Yes,
that
sir.
funk. You know.
Yes, sir.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah,
He's at
cousin
Ohio
Lenny,
players. Yes, sir.
cousin Lenny.
The Smith Financial Real Estate Relief Group. That's your cousin Lenny?
No, that's Lenny Smith. The wholesaling with Lenny.
No, that's not
I just
him.
call. Yeah, it is.
That's not him. That's somebody else there,
It's
bro.
not. You
Is that
sure?
him? Unless he
I'm
changed
pretty
his
sure that is.
he must have changed his thing then. Okay, it may be him then.
Oh,
He changed it on
yeah.
me, man. Okay. So you from Ohio, man. I know Ohio, man. It's not an easy place to be brought up at, right? So
No.
what was tell me a little bit about your community, man. Where you come up from?
So, for me specifically, my grandparents lived in a place called Jefferson Township, and I live with my mom in an area called Trotwood. But for the most part, um, I say like I was born in '89, so I kind of got to see like the decline in things because in the '90s, like 1990, 91, 92, my people were still working at GM. It was still the malls, I
Yeah,
remember like in this one mall we had called the Salem Mall. Um, you can tell usually how a community is thriving by, things like the malls in the area. So, I got, me growing up, I got to see the decline and like just the area, and most of it came from people just not having money. That's what really just kind of led me to. I think it was what's the guy, Gilly the Kid. He has a podcast. He said, people ain't really hard, but they just hungry. They just broke and hungry. So,
yeah.
um, that
million
was one of
dollars.
the
Shout
things.
out to $1 million worth of game.
Yeah, man. It's one of those
Yeah,
things to where I was able to kind of connect that at an early age. That all right, these people, these people that I was interacting with, you know, things change. Last year they were in a
yeah,
good position. Their dad had a job, their moms was, had a little side gig. They was eating good. Things change within a year. Somebody lose their job as time goes on. People's attitudes start changing just in life. So you get to see that, a lot of it is connected financially. I'll say even myself, I thought in my mind I was either going to go to college and play ball and whatever, get a job from there, or if not, I'm just going to go work at GM or Delphi like, my uncles or somebody like that. So,
yeah.
because that's just kind of what I saw. But by the time I got into high school, like I said, we moved here the end of 2003. Things started really taking a decline as far as in that area. Things started shutting down. Um, stuff, factories closing. So opportunities weren't as abundant. The course of action that you think you're gonna take, that your big cousin may have took and told you, hey man, just go get you this job and stay out the streets, just go get this money. That option isn't necessarily available. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful. My mom really had the foresight to say, hey, we're just gonna get out of here. We're gonna go to Dallas. Kind of like reset, but it's a reset in a better environment where it's more fertile ground, more opportunities. So um, that's why I can say Dayton, just wasn't necessarily just no inherently bad place. Yeah, it was people that you didn't want to cross. You grow up hearing stories. What's up, Derek? What's up?
What
What's
up, D?
going on, guys? What's going on? I'm
Not
back.
much, not much.
Yeah. You grow up hearing stories about people like was it Bugs Norman? I don't know if y'all ever heard of him. But he was a guy that was like a big time like dope dealer, like on some Frank Lucas type stuff. So you grow up hearing stories about certain things, and it's stuff going on. But for the most part, it wasn't just some inherently like dangerous place. I think that just happened as time went on, and there was just more. There's a lack of opportunities just across the board, which you could
So
go ahead. My bad.
no, no. So what stopped you, or what kind of deterred you from falling in that hole like a lot of us do, man, at that age?
Well, I could
Or did it?
say nah, cause I always believe that a lot of our trajectory is based off of how we're able to view our elders. So for me, I was blessed that my grandmother is, this woman. She came from Homer, Louisiana. Um, ended up getting, going through graduating college, becoming an HR professional to the point to where I think this like in the 70s or 80s, she left the credit union she was working for, started her own company, and then brought them on as a client. So by the time I came along, like my grandparents had been golfing for like a while. So they went to this golf course called Madden Golf Course. Um, and Madden was open to everybody, but this was like what you would think like a black man's country club. Like it was just old black man. It's my grandpa and his partners. The guy who was the pro, his name was Pete
You
Brown.
soaked up
Rest
a
in
lot of
peace.
game then.
Rest in peace, Mr. P.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first job was actually picking up the golf balls on the driving range, driving a golf cart. So yeah, and it wasn't necessarily that these old dudes were rich or anything like that, but they lived the life that they wanted to live. They did what excited them, and that may have been playing golf, talking smack to their partners, playing poker at the end of the day, and you know eating dinner with their wives. But it was a situation where I got to see people who were just living, my elders who weren't struggling. So I think that for me really changed a lot of what I would, what you believe is possible. Because if you hear all the stories about them growing
Yeah.
up in civil rights and the things that they had to deal with. So I didn't take that lightly, learning about all that, what my grandparents had gone through, but just to see that transition and them not give up on what they wanted to do, that was probably one of my biggest influences to like, really just sit down and peep what was going on and how I could get the most out of the situation.
Jay, I would say, man, you caught the tail end of the real pawpaws, right? With old real men. You know
Oh
what
no,
I'm saying? You
hey
caught
no,
that.
I got a real
You,
live pawpaw,
yeah.
man. You gotta understand, my
Yeah, that's what
pawpaw
I'm
is
saying. You you
that's
you, you caught that.
no,
Most most young
that's
guys
my
they
road
don't catch
dog.
that real pawpaw, bro.
Look, my
When he
dad
when he
wasn't
came in
around
the
in my
house,
life.
everybody understood that the big lion was there. You know what I'm
Man, look,
saying? Everybody understood
my
that at
my
that time.
grandpa was the person who taught me how to ride a bike, taught me how to aim a gun, taught me how to use a sight on. He was showing me how to shoot cans in the back of the house with the BB gun. I mean, like, how to cut grass, just to change a tire, just all of that stuff that a lot of times, like young men now, just simple stuff that you walk with you walking with a woman, she walk on the inside of the street.
Facts.
You
Facts.
walk on the outside. You pump the gas, hold the door open. So yeah, man, I got a real live pawpaw. I just saw him earlier today too. So
Yeah. Yo,
Mhm.
yo. You guys have any questions for him before we?
Well, I,
What,
I have a
what,
question
okay.
because I
Okay.
hear
Go
you
ahead.
talk about, the insurance world a lot and how you transition. But can you tell us about that transition, or what was the thing that made you say, this is what I want to teach, this is what I want to empower the world, this is the impact that I want to make? Like, when did you make that decision to focus on this particular area?
so I didn't necessarily want to actually teach it. I just wanted to be able to learn it for myself. That was my initial goal. Um, when they say set smart goals, one of the things that I like to do is make sure that the smart goals that I set, they're internal. So
Mhm.
if my objective is to learn something, that way I can apply it. Nobody else has, there are no external factors that can prohibit me from actually learning it. So it just got to that point to where I started learning it. Really 2014, no, was it 2013, 2014? I started working at Capital One. I worked in auto finance. Shout out to my friend Seisha, one of my homegirls from PV. She had got me the job. Prior to that, I was just an audio engineer. um, I worked live sound events. I did ADR. I did a bunch of different stuff just in the entertainment side of things. But during that period of my life where I was kind of in both worlds and they had collided, um, one, I looked at what were my goals as far as in the entertainment side of things. And a lot of times, just, to get a deal or to get to the situation where you can, have a successful career, which after I learned, from my teacher, his name was Mark Solomon. Um, it's actually the guy that I don't know if y'all remember that song, "All About the Benjamins" with,
Mm-hmm.
with P Diddy. So they
Mm-hmm.
got a remix. It's a
Yeah.
rock remix where it's a guy playing the guitar. That guy Mark Solomon, my teacher, he's the one that's playing the guitar on that song, and he actually negotiated his own contract. And
Oh.
one of the things that he had told me was that his dad had told him, which was music is a business just like anything else. And I'm starting to look and say, all right, well, I'm working at a bank. They doing auto loans. And then in the music side of things, people just want to get this deal, which ain't nothing but a loan itself. So we get into this situation where people are making money off of interest, off of lending money. And that got thrown around. And I read a book called The Banker's Code. Derek, I will send you this book because you do insurance. This is something that I think will definitely help you out because it's what changed my life and helped me realize that, oh, it's just a mindset. It's just how you
Mm,
think and how you utilize these products. And as I just started learning it, I'm kind of one of those people to where like I got a big mouth. So if I learn something and I feel like it's
that's
helpful to my people, like,
mm,
hey, did you know such and such? Did you know this? Did you know that? Like I'm just one of those people that even I'm one of them guys where you be like, man, John just talk too much. I know he'd be excited about all this stuff, but and he always talking about business. He always talking about so that's kind of like inherently in my nature. But my goal was never really to just spread it. It was just to the point to where like I got this information, and actually to the most transformative information I got was from a brother from Detroit, Michigan. His name is Rich Dotson. Um, he runs an agency out of Silicon Valley called Thrive Wealth Solutions, and you know the information in the game that they just kind of I didn't have to pay for this information. I had to, sign a non-disclosure agreement to not try to, reproduce it in any capacity of that. But like I'm getting information that like I know people that have been in the insurance industry for decades and they don't have it. And it's
mm,
just because I had been able to connect with the right people and the right, I'm able to sit in the right rooms and have the right conversations with people. And I'm getting this information that I know from working at an insurance company. I worked at this company called National Life Group. I was on the sales desk. So, um, basically when agents wanted illustrations ran, they had questions about products. I'm talking to agents across the nation. And like I said, that was just my job. But then when you start realizing like, yo, there's a huge gap in what people should know and what they do know. And so that just kind of led me to the entrepreneurial aspect of it of, all right, well, there's a need that needs to be filled.
mm,
Um, I got to feed my family. I could go, do whatever, or I could use this knowledge that I said I was just going to attain for myself. I
Mm-hmm.
could say this opportunity and I could exploit it and then I could create generational wealth. Um, and even, for myself, residual income, because that's why I got into the entertainment side of things, because I wanted to create residual income for myself. Now I'm in a position where I've sold policies to where these policies are going to pay me possibly for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just wanting to share my experience and try to because like I said, I know there's other people who are probably in the same situation that I was back home,
Mm-hmm.
who, they probably didn't
Yeah.
leave, so they weren't able to experience and, be able to sit in the same rooms. So my thing is as well, somebody took the time to give this information to me. Somebody took the time out of their day to really try to bless my game. So at the very least, it's a cycle of life. I can reciprocate this, and that's really what I
Reciprocate.
what I try to do
Absolutely.
now.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge,
Well,
man.
thank you. Yeah.
That's
I
that's
have
what
a
we have to
follow-up
do.
question.
We have to.
Hmm.
I have a
Yes, ma'am.
follow-up question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
have you ever, I know that you work with entrepreneurs to try to get them, leveraged. But have you ever thought about, or do you have people that you bring in to teach them what you do? Or like some type of system where, you know, like insurance, like you're teaching them and then they become coaches under you or these type of people under you. And if you do, what is the ideal person that you bring in to work to
So
do what you do?
my what I do at this stage is I do help people who want to get into the insurance industry. I help them become brokers, and that's a consultation thing where we just, literally sit down, and I don't charge for that, because that's just direction. That's just clearing the pathway, and that's just an investment in somebody else. But even I work with other, insurance agents, because a lot of agents are signed to IMOs that really don't give them the leverage that they really require. So there have been people that I used to help when I worked at the insurance company, but I just may have met them just out in the streets, just randomly at a conference. We connected, and then what I'll do is I'll consult them on, okay, here's the thing. You work with this IMO because they have a good contract with this company here. And as long as they let you become independent, well, okay, we leverage relationships with different companies. This company may have this system in place, and if this is what fits your business, it's just plugging and playing and leveraging the contacts and the resources that I've built up. So the ideal person is really somebody who's a go-getter. um I That's really it. You just have to be a lifelong learner. There's no really nothing. Nobody's predisposed to really just know any of this stuff more than anybody else.
Yeah.
It's just a situation of you have to be able to, I think, spot a personal advantage for yourself, because that's what really helped me. Was I was like, I went into it thinking of, how am I going to apply this to my family? How am I going to make this, benefit me? So I have a more positive bias towards it. And I think that if people take that approach with really whatever it is they learn, um, I found out recently I'm good at math. I'm really good at algebra. But when I think back to my teacher in school, she never painted it to show me, what a return I was going to get on investing in a specific stock, or, how I could calculate, the charges inside of an insurance policy, so that way I could do some, adjusting and configuration, so that way I could get the most out of it. So I think just somebody who's a lifelong learner and can really incentivize things for themselves. Those are the people that really thrive, and I personally have seen do the best.
Great question. Great question. Great answer too.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have a question for him? Yeah. But that's something I say definitely, man. Continue to do, man. Putting those pebbles, man, in front of people, man, especially us, man, because we need them. Don't even like when I was coming up, I didn't even know that it was possible. Stuff like that was even possible, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking I didn't graduate school, so this all I have is the block, right? So I'm gonna hug the block, right? It wasn't until I got out of my environment, man, and came to Dallas, and I'm looking, I see young people look just like me who are shaking and moving out here, who have the big home, who have the big car. I'm like, man, we out there playing basketball together, and I'm like, man, what you do? You know what I'm saying? Oh, I do this. I do. I'm like, wow, this always possible. You know what I'm saying? Because most of us, a lot of us don't even think it's even possible.
I'm gonna
So
tell you
that's
one of the
huge, man.
one of the biggest. What's up, Miss Sheila?
So I do have a question because, like he said, I think that we think it's impossible. So can you walk through like an assessment process? So if I came to Johnny, right, I just have a term life insurance policy, what as an entrepreneur, what would my process be with you? Like you would bring me in, you would kind of see what my assets are, like, and what benefit would my investment, me investing my time in you, what would that yield be?
So here's what we do, and Derek is probably really familiar with this too. So the policies that I specifically specialize in working in, like index universal life insurance policies. if structured properly, can be an alternative to a 401k. So I'll
Okay.
give you just a simple play that if I were to talk to somebody and they say, well, hey, give me some options, what's something that and give me an option. So I say, hey, you know, we figure out, okay, how much money do you want to save, right? How much money do you save? Because
Mhm.
honestly, people put money inside their 401ks and they don't expect to ever touch it. So we don't look at, okay, how can we find some discretionary income that you have? Because that's one of I'll tell any agent that wants to, sell life insurance. That's the worst thing you could ever do is try to get somebody to buy an insurance policy, a lifelong commitment based on discretionary income. Two things
Mm.
just don't go together. We're talking about, I want you to take this serious. So if we look at it as an alternative to a 401k and you're able to walk with me along those lines, I'm able to show you exactly why this is possible. So in that process, okay, you'll go along. So I'll show you that, okay, if we set up this policy, we can use what's called a lifetime income benefit rider. Various companies offer this. A life insurance policy is a contract. It's an aleatory, unilateral contract. And all that means is that the insurance company, they're the only people the only party in this agreement with a legally enforceable promise. They have to pay. If you hold up your end and pay the premiums, they have to pay a death benefit. They have to pay a death benefit even if you've only been paying for 3 years and you may have only paid a total of 30,000 premium, but the death benefit is 200,000. Just not specific numbers, but
Right, right.
they're held to that. So we want to use this contract to create leverage for ourselves. So in this case, we use what's called a lifetime income disability rider. And that's something when I worked at National Life Group, that was an option that they offered. So we'd be able to show in the illustration, these are predictions, um, if we put in this much money for this period of time based on how you're choosing to save, then we can get an estimate of how much you will be able to receive in income for life. And this is a contractual benefit inside of an insurance contract.
Mhm.
Most of the reason why people get 401ks is so that way they can get tax advantage money for the rest of their lives. But the truth of the matter is that it's the money inside of that 401k, it's that tax. Just look at it as it's already the IRS's. No matter how much money accrues in there, that's the IRS's money. But
Mhm.
what we're talking about here, the IRS can't touch it thanks to the provisions in the tax code. So now you're able to get a stream of income that you don't have to pay income taxes on,
Mhm.
and it's contractually agreed for you to get this for the rest of your life, still with the minimum amount of cash value and a minimum death benefit per the contract. So if I'm able to show somebody how that looks, well, then it becomes a different scenario because yeah, and you can have more than one insurance contract. You got more than one insurance policy. I teach people how they can literally we call it cascading. So you could have two insurance policies, and you could have one. You could have how many kids you have, Sheila?
3.
Three. So you have two for yourself, one for just you, one for that's just for your business, and then three, and then one for each of your kids. We show people how you could take the premium from one policy, loan that out, pay the premium for your other policy, and then subsequently pay the premiums for your three kids,
Mhm.
leveraging that same dollar
Mhm.
multiple times. So if you're able to create a retirement plan, but we were gonna get insurance anyway. But you mean to tell me I could turn it into, basically a Swiss Army knife that could, take care of my retirement. In
Mhm.
addition, I could show people how you could structure a life insurance policy that it gives you 100% disability income.
Mhm.
So if between now and age 65 something happens to you and you can't pay your insurance policy, we can structure it so that way the insurance company will pay that premium for you. And the way we structure it, you're going to be taking a loan out of it regardless.
Mhm.
So that being said, if something happens and you can't work, insurance company pays your premium, you take a loan, tax free. Sounds like tax free retirement income. So when
Mhm.
we show these type of options to, you know, to people who run small businesses, and it's based off of, like I said, what do you want to do,
Mhm.
right? What numbers work for you, and then we get to looking at assets and seeing, okay, well, what can be reallocated, because we don't want to, try to pull money out of thin air. If you have more money coming in, and okay, we want to strategically, allocated into an insurance policy, and then subsequently into, let's say, like Miss Angel was talking about earlier, Novatech, right?
Mhm.
These are the options that we're able to kind of show people that they could do, even in the sense of, let's say you grow and you get bigger and you have a secretary, you have a chief, intelligence officer, you have whoever it is that you want to keep this talent. We'll show you how to create, you know uh, defined contribution plans, to how to create structured life insurance policies. So that way, the money that ends up becoming your employee's retirement, if we structure it properly, it ends up being no money out of your pocket by utilizing this insurance policy.
Mhm.
So when we sit down and we discuss those problems based off of whatever stage that somebody is at, some people are just getting started. Some people are, hey, I've been working this thing for a while. I'm looking for an exit strategy. I only want to work this a few more years. We just base it on where somebody is in their business and what their goals are. And from that point, we're able to figure out, okay, what concept are we going to use?
Mhm.
There may be a situation where we have to include the trust aspect of it, because in that situation it may be someone who um, they may want to franchise their business, and they may be wanting to use that intellectual property that is, their business, and maybe want to have it incentivized through taxes. Well, then we want to create a specialized trust that owns that intellectual property and then leases that out, and then the payments that come in don't create taxable events. So it's just based off of where somebody is in their journey,
Mhm.
um, and really what their goals are, because that's probably the biggest thing that I tell somebody, that it's the only way I couldn't help you. The only way I can't help you is if you don't know what you want.
Right.
But if you know
Mm.
what you want,
And see, that's what we're
come.
missing.
Yeah, I think that is. Well, I thank you for walking through that process, because I
That's what
think
we're missing.
that whenever we're talking about money or insurance, I think it triggers people sometimes in the opposite direction, right? Like it brings up this emotion of readiness, right? Like, am I ready to have this conversation? Do I have enough income to do this thing, or is this going to cost a lot of money? Like, all of these things start to come up in people's head, and so then they naturally now step back. And what I hear you saying is, a part of your process is to provide ease, right? And especially as an entrepreneur who don't have that security of a 401k and things like that in their future, but you're paralleling this process to make sure that not only the entrepreneur is being taken care of today, but being taken care of in the future, and their families too, if something was to happen to them.
And you know
And
what? I'll tell you, just even to that point that you had made earlier about what kind of made me want to really help and spread this. My fellow engineers. I graduated from this school in Dallas called Media Tech Institute. So there are a lot of awesome people that I went to school with and graduated with that, pursued careers in the entertainment industry. But one of the things is that there usually aren't retirement plans set up for photographers or videographers or audio engineers, or there aren't there isn't a huge, people don't flock to that market to try to help these people create, situations where they can retire from, because a lot of my teachers were older engineers. They were people who, I mean, they may have had money stashed away, and because that was they came up before inflation
Mhm.
really kind of took a hold. But for the people that I graduated with, that was one of the things that I really wanted to help spread. It was just like, hey, we can still do this, but let's say like the trust thing. That's how a lot of times, like I said, the residual income. That's how you create it to where it doesn't create a taxable event. So you don't end up looking like Wesley Snipes. You don't end up looking like, some of these guys who get all their stuff repossessed, because you didn't take the time to realize that, okay, I'm in a business. Once I signed up with BMI or ASCAP, I became a songwriter, a publisher, whatever the case is. You know, how can I set myself up? Because it was like I had kids too. I had my daughter when I was trying to finish school. So being able to relate to all these other people who were just trying to find their way, and really, I say that because it was a confusion between, I say, chasing paper and chasing passion. And that's the downside, where I think people who have artistic callings, because you come at a point to where really the fame and monetizing your business as an artist, it almost becomes a contradiction to your growth as an artist, which is why you see, I think if you go back and look at like Jimi Hendrix interviews, or you go look at like Andre 3000 or Kendrick Lamar, people who are like artists, right?
Right.
Experiment, try things, you always notice that they take a step back, they seclude themselves, they shield themselves from all the adoration that they get. And I think they're blessed to have everything set up to where they have advisors and everything set up for them. But for that average guy that, maybe he's not going to make millions of dollars off of his music, he may make, you know, 20 or 30,000 in a year off of everything that's going on. How do you set yourself up to really be able to eat off the fruits of your labor later on in life, so that way you're not, old and trying to figure out what am I going to do? Back to, like I said, how I saw my elders. When I was able to see my elders living life how they wanted to, how do I create that for myself in the circumstances that me and my peers and, the current surroundings are given?
Mhm. So I have a follow up to that, because so that means that I don't have to, because the average person income I think is around 50,000, right? So I don't have to be like a multimillionaire to do this, or I don't have to be a six figure, to do this, right? I could just be an individual that is considered middle class, right?
Yeah.
To invest in this process, because I also think that that could be a stumbling block too, where people feel like, oh, I gotta be a six-figure person, or I gotta have this. So what I hear you saying is that no, you don't have to have.
No, not in
Okay.
order to have a life insurance policy. And I think that's another reason why I really wanted to try to break that stigma, because these are tools that I mean, I'll tell you one of the main reasons that I got into this thing outside of that book, The Banker's Code, is I went and looked up companies that are still around today, thriving, that profited off of slavery. And I
Mhm.
saw New York Life Insurance, I saw Aetna, I saw JP Morgan, I saw Lehman Brothers, I saw Brooks Brothers, the people that sell the suits and stuff. Like, you see all these companies that profited, prosper, and they're still around thriving. So that was probably one of the biggest motivations for me, is just I think I made a status that said you can learn more from your opposition than you can from your allies. And that's what I really wanted to take into account. I don't like JD Rockefeller in one bit. When I read the man's personally, my personal opinion is I'm not very fond of the things that he, from his war on holistic medicine to his role in the reason why why prohibition happened, and the fight for alternative fuel inside of it. There's a lot that I don't like about that man. But guess what? I learned how his trusts work. I learned more, that helped me more than so much else. I vehemently dislike Walt Disney as a person. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I don't like him as a person. But I learned from Walt Disney that you could utilize trust, which is how he bought most of that land that Disneyland is on under. And he used that life insurance policy. He used that to help buoy his company and keep it afloat to now we know it as we know it today.
Mhm.
So like I said, it was just me taking these lessons that I learned. And then I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with Plano, with Plano, Texas. It's a suburb of Dallas. I moved from Dayton, Ohio to Plano, Texas, which, if I don't know how to really explain that type of transition, but it's a really weird transition. Like,
That's where I'm at, man. I'm right here.
it's
I'm right
like,
here playing. I'm right here.
yeah, so it
That's
goes
where I'm
like
at.
when you in the Midwest, we
I know
understand like
exactly what
things are
you're saying.
just,
Yeah,
but then when I
yeah.
got down here,
It's
it was like everything was just so segregated. I had friends that were like, I actually learned about like different countries in Africa, right? I really had to learn because I had friends from Ghana. I had people mistaking me for being Ethiopian. One of my friends I hooped with was from Nigeria. One of my friends that I
it's
made music
it's
with, he was from
yeah.
the
It's
Ivory
truly an
Coast.
international city.
This is an internet, like I'm meeting people
Yeah,
from
truly
Japan, from China,
everywhere.
and these are just people I'm going to school with. So
Mhm.
I'm getting
Yeah,
immersed in like a lot of different culture, but then at the same time, you also see how other people's parents act, how other people's parents move. So
Mhm.
I always
Yeah.
Mm.
sense if there was disdain, I
I
sensed
think
it,
it
but
was a
then at the
plus,
same
man.
time, it is a plus because
I
you
didn't
get to
care.
see
Yeah.
exactly how these people are preserving their wealth. And I'm like, I don't have to like you to learn from you.
Mhm.
That's what I always tell
Exactly.
everybody. Like, take your fit, and this is not to be insensitive because Miss Sheila helps people work through their emotions. And I'm not telling people to box them up. But in some cases, you're going to have to just shut your emotional side up and realize that you got more to learn in this situation than not.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
I
a,
think that's why I call it managing your emotions, right? How do you stay anchored, right? So it's not about
yeah,
like releasing them, it's just about managing them because they're going to come up, as we progress through life, and especially when we're changing mindsets and shifting cultures and
yeah,
perspective and learning different things, right? So that's it.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that change
Yeah,
is awesome.
that's one thing I learned too as well, man. It's like, coming from where we come from, man, you used to be around a certain, I say, type of people, right? Or I'll just say black people, where I'm from.
Yeah,
But here,
it
you
was.
definitely it's a gumbo of people, man. You
I'm
see
gonna
some,
tell
you see
you.
some like, wow, man, like, okay, where you from? People look just like you, but they got heavy accents. They from somebody. I'm like, bro, I could have swore I knew you from my hometown, bro. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that. But it's cool.
That's
I love it,
real.
man. I love it, man. You go to the nearest shop or whatever, sit down with your laptop. You just never know the conversation that you can do. You can have a whole conversation going growing up and with people would never probably even talk to before. You're never
I've
gonna
met
see again. You know what I'm
I've
saying?
met
So
Right.
I love
millionaires.
it.
I've met millionaires out here, just random people you wouldn't expect from a bucket of paint to be wealthy.
Yeah, man.
Um, just striking
Got
up
it.
conversations at
Yeah.
Lowe's or you just being
Yeah.
out and about and you
And
just
they,
had convers.
yeah.
I call it dad
And
mode.
they got
Once
it
I
too.
had kids, I just started
Yeah, man.
talking to everybody out in public. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And being nosy, you
yeah,
just ask questions. I remember
Yeah,
when I
man.
first moved into a new community, and it was like everybody was like, "So, where do you work?" And it was so invasive to me. Like, why do you want to know where I work? But then the more I got
Yeah.
out, I realized that that is a conversation to be had with people, right? Like, what do you work? It's like these conversations that require you to be a little more free with your information. I guess I want to say,
or at least
Um,
to develop that like the personal elevator speech,
yeah.
because that's something that I had to really grow out of because I'll tell you one of the biggest things that caught me off guard is when I got down here, people who just wave. It's Southern hospitality.
yeah,
I'm coming from
yeah.
the Midwest, and I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
like,
real. You
Everybody's
don't
like,
wave.
"What you
You don't
waving at?
wave.
Like who? I don't know you. Like what is? I don't know
That
you."
is
But
so
then
true. That was weird, bro.
yeah, but you just be
I thought
driving
that was
down the
weird,
street and
man.
it's just whether it
Like,
don't
do I
matter
know
who
him?
whether it could be they be white, black, whoever the case. It's Southern hospitality. People just wave, and so after a while, I just was like, hey, when in Rome, and then I'm not even gonna lie, it just
You
kind of
know
helped
to
me
do, bro.
just hey, you
I think
flourish.
for society, we are so used to having relatory conversations with people. So it matters where you spend your time to get increase for your family, for your daily life, so you can get the things that you like, the houses, the cars, maybe you want to do that lavish trip to Paris or Dubai, and I think I struggled with that for a time because 7 years ago I was working for a big corporation, and then I started working for myself. That dynamic of working for yourself and working for another corporation changes because you have to have grit. You have to wake up. You have to, set your course on where you want to be, gold for gold, day by day. Some days you have high and lows, but when you're working for someone, you have to roll out of bed, get there, get your money. It takes a part on you. So when you're having conversations of where you work, what do you do for a living, and when you start saying that, well, I work for myself and I do this and I do that, is a little different than, oh, I just work at this corporation. You
Yeah,
know,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it definitely is. At the end of the day, I think the biggest part is not finding your identity in whatever it is that you're doing.
mm-hmm.
Um, because that is just a part of you. One of the things that shout out to Danielle that I'm even big on is I let people know how much of an anime nerd I am. I That's just something that I'm into. I like sports. I like anime. Like there's a bunch of different facets. So I think that the unfortunate thing in our capitalistic consume based society is that people find identity in whatever it is that they do to earn money. And that was one of the things that like I really wanted to try to shake for myself, because me growing up, especially, like I felt like a stigma that, okay, if I don't do this and I don't make this type of money, then I'm not a man, or I'm not able to. And come to
Mhm.
find out, it's really just a lot of times it's like, yo,
It's
is
mindset.
that shout out to my papa. Shout out to my papa, my grandparents. My grandma's always been a working woman, but then there was times when my grandpa was the breadwinner, and that kind of had changed throughout life. But what never changed is that he washed clothes, she washed clothes. He cooked, she cooked. He did dishes, she did dishes. You know what I'm saying? Of course, he made that, cleaned out the gutters and cut the grass or whatever. It was just different things. But so it's like once you learn to find your identity just in who you are, then those conversations become a lot easier, because then it's like, oh, well, this is what I do here, and then you got layers. So the more that you get to know somebody, well, you may not have known this, but I also do this as well. What? And then you build more connections as life goes. But I think that's really the hugest part that, like, and I even tell my clients this: don't get tied up, because at the end of the day, my goal with them is to get you to the point where you're doing what excites you. What most people call retirement, but it's doing what excites you. And you have no idea, and a lot of times, what that looks like right now. That may look like you being the kooky old man with a whole bunch of land that really
Mhm.
don't mess with building stuff on your land. It looks so different for so many people. So it's like, if you tie yourself down to one thing, which is, I'm an accountant here, that's why I really don't even like telling people what it is I do. I like helping people with finances. Yeah. I like helping people with money. I'm your money man.
I think you make a
Mhm.
great point, Johnny, with the whole identity thing. Um, because I do feel like it's something about people who attach ourselves to places, to things, and get and garnish our worth off of that. And I think that's
Social currency.
one of the things that one of the mindset shifts that when you work for corporate, especially if it's like a Fortune 500 company and you're used to saying, I work for this, and their company gives you an appraisal, right? Like, because you work for this company, people tend to want to be around you or network with you or contact you. And and so when I transitioned over, that happened to me. But the second thing you said, which was even more powerful, and this is more on just kind of male female dynamics. I think that even as women, we have to start talking about more of our interests, right? Like, and not so much like a resume, right? And when you start to build these personal relationships, I think that's where you find your worth and your currency. And then that equity in those personal relationships is then what translates into your capital or connections or things like that. And when I'm working with women, a lot of times like on dating apps, and they want to put like I'm a CEO, and and they're leading like they're doing an interview, and I'm like, why don't you put your interests out there, like you like anime, or you like you know uh R&B music, or you like to dance, right? Because now you're talking to a person, right, who also may have that interest. And in that interest, now there's something that brings you together. And even when you're networking, I think when we go out to networking events, it's like, oh, I own my own business. And then it's like this part where you just kind of what else do I say? But if you can talk about you in a way where you're a person and you have interests and you're doing things, you will see that conversation grow. And now the person who actually has leverage is maybe more interested in you, right? To even say, oh, okay, so you like anime, my kids like anime or whatever. Now, where do you work, right? Because now you've drawn them in through a part that makes us human, and I think we forget that you
Yeah.
know that's a part of your entrepreneur journey, to have interest as an individual, because people want to know you, not always what you do.
Oh yeah,
I
the
would.
grind
Yeah.
is consuming, and I think it's a struggle to make sure that it doesn't consume you. I even have to take some days where like I just tell myself I'm not finna do anything when it comes to finding. I'm not finna read nothing with it. Now, if it's a client calls, they got a problem, something along that's business that's in order, and I need that's cool. But there's some days where I'll do that. I don't want to look at any illustrations. I don't want to crunch no numbers, no spreadsheets. I'll respond to the
Yeah.
emails because
Yeah.
it's proper correspondence. But past that, everybody has to take time, especially entrepreneurs and people who run businesses because it's a taxing thing. Um,
It is.
yeah, to fight like go ahead.
Yeah.
My bad, man. Go ahead.
No,
I think that
I
was
mean,
in that video,
a
right?
lot of times, a
You said
lot of
what?
times, we as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we love what we do, right? And we don't look. A lot of times, you don't look at it as actual work, right? But it is work. When you're running your mind, it's work. You know what I'm saying? And that's been my issue for a long time, and I don't know how to turn it off, right? For the last couple of weeks or whatever, because I actually kind of really shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
I had to shut it down, and I'm telling you, I feel a whole lot better, man. You know what I'm saying? So I advise you guys when you guys are out there looking to be an entrepreneur, man, take some time, listen to your body, and detach from this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Shut it down, man. You gotta do it. That's the issue,
Mm-hmm.
man. That's the issue for me, man. My wife been telling me, hey, either shut it down or it'll shut you down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Well,
it's
Jay, I
true.
had
You
sent that
gotta do it,
video
man.
to you. I sent that video to you about the Jew. It was a Jew, and he had like the 10
Yes,
things that
yes.
make
Yeah.
Jew successful as businessmen, and that was one. One day it's like we just don't do work, right? We don't think about work. We don't talk about work. We just take one day off to reboot
Yeah.
for the 6 days. And I think that as people who have been, drilled in that it's the hustle and grind, hustle and grind, hustle and grind, stay up, no sleep, no rest. If you know, it's like to switch to this space of, oh no, I do need to take one day of rest a week, right? To reboot, to reform, to reshape, to renew. That's a different way of thinking. And it's so far out of the way that we've been trained and conditioned to think,
Let me
as
can
as workers, as professionals, and definitely as an entrepreneur.
let me build on that. So Chick-fil-A, right? We all assume that Chick-fil-A closes on Sunday for religious reasons, right? That's not the case at all. There's a book I advise every entrepreneur to read. Every It's called 3 Feet from Gold. It's one of the books on the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Is by Sharon Lecter and Greg Reed. And in it, Greg Reed, one of the guy who writes the book, he speaks on meeting Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A. And Truett Cathy mentioned in the interview in the book that they gave that Sunday just so that way the employees could have, like you said, that day off, because that's something that's such is uncommon, especially in the fast food industry, right? You go to McDonald's 7 days out the week, you go to Wendy's 7 days out the week, you can go to Golden Chick 7 days out the week. You can't go to Chick-fil-A. So that was something that you know he stated that he implemented just so that way it gave back to the people that were his employees, giving those scholarships and things away. But like when I read that, it was just so impactful. It was like, man, we all assume, right? Even on the conditioning part, so many people assume and make jokes. Oh yeah, that's God's chicken, that's Jesus chicken, right? Yeah, I mean it may be, but at the same time, the guy who started the company really did it to show love to the people who worked for the company,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that's
But
powerful.
it was a time, man, where a work week was 5 days, right? That
Mm-hmm.
used to be, but now they figure out that you can work you on a Saturday and Sunday, so they got you working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, man. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And if you
and
Capitalism.
you're
ain't
right
working,
though, but you definitely got to do something.
yeah. Or it's the mindset that you got to work, like all these days. And when that starts to have a toll on your body and your health, and everything in your family, then now it's like, man, I wish when I look back, I should have, and it's okay to have balance in your life. Actually, it's a healthy thing to do, you
Hmm.
know.
And it's also it's time where you got to go in too, right? You gotta go hard, man. You know you things got to get taken care of, whatever the case is. But you got to have time for play as well.
Mhm.
Simple as
But I
that.
think
You
that's
know what
more
I'm
about
saying?
focus
Some days
and
you might not have no sleep for a couple hours that day. Say it again.
I said I think that's more about focus, right? And this is where Johnny said about being goal oriented and having clarity. And when you don't have clarity, seeking out help and assistance to get you that clarity, because the more clear you are, then the more efficient and effective you can be. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
times we procrastinate and we are held up in our behaviors or what we have to do is because we don't have the clarity on what to move, and we can be very indecisive when it comes to making decisions and things like that, which is all emotional things. Um, and as soon as you get clarity, though, if you know the things that you're clear on, you can execute them, right?
Right.
Pretty quickly, unless you build habits that don't
You're
allow
right.
you to execute, you know. But the reality of it is life is about getting clarity, you know. And
Yeah.
it's sometimes until you have that clarity, you just got to do that thing that needs to be done right now and not even think about the future. I know my mentor told me, you know, I can get from Michigan to California in the fog because I just need to know the next thing to do. And a lot of times we get stuck because we're at step 10. Like, what's the 10th thing I need to do? And you don't need to know the 10th thing. You just need to know the next thing and be clear about that.
And just to piggyback. I believe that it's cool, and I think it depends on who you are. Because I'm unfortunately somebody who starts working backwards. So
Mhm.
like I use when got into insurance, like that book I mentioned, The Banker's Code. That book was talking about how people who are in private lending, right, the stuff that Brother Jarrell that's on here every now and then, um, how banks actually utilize money inside a life insurance policy. This whole and use qualified retirement plans, loan it out, create arbitrage, create a spread off the money, and increase the velocity of the money. I started off on something so next level that by the time I actually got, and I'm saying because I know exactly what you mean. I think the key is for some people is just tuck it away, right? It's hard for I think a lot of people to take that information and realize like it's a blessing that you know what step 10 is, because it's a lot of people who on step 9 who don't even realize that that step even exists. But I think it's like rather than getting yourself so caught up in you knowing that, tuck it away, because for some people who I work with, like on the trust thing, there's some real estate guys who like they not there. They deals ain't got to that point yet. And Jay, that climb that it takes from people hopping into wholesaling and getting to the point to where, hey, your tax bill right now doesn't make sense for you to spend 30 grand, to get this whatever entity set up because you're not even making that much. But the fact is life is chess to a degree, and the more control or the way you're able to manage yourself, you're able to be like, all right, well, this is important. It may not be the most important thing right now, but let me file this away because the human brain is a beautiful thing. Once you see something, something will click. Something will be like, hold on, wait a minute. I remember I talked to that one guy and then the situation is applicable. That's why I think it goes to a
Yeah.
point to where, because sometimes it's hard in the information age that we live in. You get so much information that you may get step 16 before you get step 4.
Yes.
And
Facts.
like and I'm saying
Facts.
that because I've gotten
That's
that,
so
and it's
true.
like where you just got to kind of
Yeah.
file it away and realize that, okay, I got a piece of the puzzle right now. This ain't
Hmm.
the whole puzzle,
Yeah.
but it's just that piece, or this corner piece or whatever it is, and file that away so that way when it's time to use it, you
It's gonna
got
be
that
valuable.
tool there.
It'll be valuable down the line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely pieces.
That's
You
why it's important you
collecting
to talk to
pieces to the
different people, man.
puzzle.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
You definitely
It's
collecting
important to
pieces
talk to
to the
different people,
puzzle.
man. You know.
Yeah.
Facts.
And I say this because I think that people, I think this is why we have serial entrepreneurs though that don't complete tasks, right? So you have people who start projects and never complete them, and then start projects and never complete them, and then start projects and never complete them, and then they say that they have ADD when truly it's just like you like to add things in your life and you really don't know how to finish, right? Because when it comes to finishing, it's going to require you to tie up those loose ends. And sometimes those loose ends are
Hey,
not about the pieces to the puzzle. It's about patience and knowing how to put, you got the pieces now. Now, how do I put this together? And I think that's where most people need help, right? That's where you need the coach. That's where you need a Johnny. That's where you need a Derek. That's where you need an Angel, like, or Jay, to come in to give a different perspective, an objective view, and then kind of start to put things in place so that you can execute um, and
and
actualize your
and
goals.
I say a big thing is knowing the difference between a project and an operation, because there's so many people who they stop doing things that should be operations in their business. They should be ongoing, and then they'll have something that they'll keep. They'll be beating a dead horse, and it's really just a project that probably needs to be brought up maybe every quarter or every other quarter or whatever the case may be. But just even knowing that inside your business, you're right. Being able to sit down and talk to somebody objectively who has that bird's eye view, that can really be the game changer.
My dog lifts her head up like, "Er?"
But everybody, man, who's ever done anything in life, man, who has that second set of eyes, right? They have people, they have mentors and things of that nature to help them get into that next level, helping them work through some different things that they may be dealing with or whatever the case is, man. So it's really important. So how much more so will it be for us, right? If we just coming straight out of a 9 to 5, right? If we get into becoming an entrepreneur, we need that too. And if you don't
Right.
have the money, it's different ways of stuff we need to do in order to acquire to get that money, right? To be able to afford to be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? So if you
You
got to
know what?
raise your price, whatever the case is, you need somebody.
There was something that
But
was on my heart that I wanted to say, and and I mean this to everybody that sees this, because there's a confusion on shortcuts. And the ironic part about shortcuts in life are that you have to be extremely thorough before you actually find the shortcut. And it's crazy because we want to find the shortcut to shorten the journey, but like we all know our childhood neighborhoods, right? Where you grew up in, you played hide and seek till the street light came on. You knew that area and you knew how to get to somebody's house through whatever alley or back whatever way. You knew that, but you didn't know that until it was years of you actually playing and finding out from your big brother, your or whoever it is. Hey, you can cut back there. You can, there's some woods back there. So I think that's like a huge thing when it comes to like life. Because I tell you, like for me, you know, dealing with, let's say, like with the insurance stuff, right? Because that's my specialty. Um, I had to do a lot of scouring before I found, okay, this is how they're able to make this happen, and you're able to cut through this system. So don't be afraid to do the hard work. That's the biggest thing, is don't be afraid to learn. Don't down your own capacity. You are capable of more things than you realize. But it's not until you sit down and you realize, like, all right, let me put my mind to it. And if you do so, then you'll discover the ways on how you can create that shortcut, how you can create that incentive or whatever loophole, whatever synonym it is that applies to the situation. Um, but I think for every entrepreneur, every person who wants to start a business, every person who wants to invest, um, real estate, that's another one. People, you can spend a day digging through books and you can know more than a lot of real estate gurus if you spend a day just dedicated digging through books and just applying strictly to what it is that you do. Of course, that takes some work, and that takes you
yeah,
scanning through content, table of contents, and seeing what applies to what it is you're trying to do. But I'm saying literally, I've bypassed a lot of people in the same industry that I'm in just because I took the
I
time to
read.
go look up some
Wow.
things or watch some videos or some courses that they weren't going to take the time to do. And because so, it's people who are twice my age who come and they're like, well, how do y'all do this? Or how do y'all do that? Because I listened to somebody that was your age who took the time to do it and they passed that information on to me. So let's, you know, that's
Yeah,
the
that's
cycle.
that's
So
so true. That's so true. People not willing to read, man. That's the problem too. Because
read.
you reading a book, man. You get a book, right? That book may be that person's 30-year lifespan. You put in that one particular book. Take your good strong weekend and read that whole book, man. You got a lot of information that you can use. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, most people, us, not gonna
We
read, man.
we will
It's
read.
sad,
We
man.
gonna speak, now we're gonna speak that into existence. We're gonna
I
change the
like that.
narrative
Okay,
right here
okay,
and there, right
yeah,
here and
yeah.
now. No, we
I
will.
feel you.
It's cool to be
Yeah,
smart.
yeah.
It's cool to pick up that book because guess
It's
what?
cool to be smart.
Um, I got a cousin right now who is he's 26 years old and he's in jail for a murder charge. And it hurts my heart, but it was something that he told me when he called me, and he was saying, yeah, cuz I'm reading now, I'm sitting down and he's telling me all these things, and I'm happy that he's doing it. But the big cousin in me that's, I'm still sensitive to it, but when he come out, I'm gonna tell him, fool, you didn't have to go sit down to to do that. So I'm saying that
To
for a
do
lot of
that.
our people is
Yeah,
that you
man.
don't have to get put in this stressful situation to change. You don't have to get put under pressure. They You may call them artificial diamonds, but guess what? They still make diamonds without them being put under the pressure of the earth. They're still being made. You don't have to go through the natural process of trauma in order to evolve. You can evolve in a happy place. And I think that the reading part for a lot of us, you don't have to go to jail to read. And I'm saying that because that hurt my, like, that literally hurt me, like with
Hey,
my little
hey,
cousin.
I feel you
And
on that, bro. I feel
it is, he spent his 26th birthday in there. And I'm only saying this because maybe somebody else out there, it can be a testimony to them, which is you don't have to put yourself through these excruciating circumstances in order to change for the better. It only takes one page a day. Read a paragraph, read a sentence, you
Mhm.
man.
know,
But tell you,
start small, but at
I
least you
can't tell
did
you
it.
how many times, I've had an intellectual conversation with somebody in prison, right? And then all of a sudden they go, "You got 5 minutes." You know how they do on the phone. You know what I'm saying? So it is sad, man, that we have to go through that, bro. For us to sit down to read a couple books, bro. It's sad, man. So I definitely understand what you're saying, man. But
Hey,
if
Malcolm
listen,
X
man,
was
leaders
Malcolm
are
X
readers,
before
man. Simple
Detroit
as that.
Red went to jail.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Malcolm was still
Like
Malcolm.
right
It
now,
just
we're teaching on. Yeah, it took him. He sat out for a minute, but when he got it. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm reading this different technique, man. When it comes to commercial properties, man. I'm sitting out and reading, and I'm going over and over, and I wrote the book a couple times. Like, man, this is simple, but I wouldn't get it. I wouldn't have knew about this particular technique unless I sat down and actually read. So now I'm talking to different people about it. They're like, yeah, we've been doing it for a minute. I would have never knew. You know what I'm saying? I would never knew. So you have to
yeah.
pick up a book. And too many
And
half price bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, man. You know what I'm saying? The library. You got to do it, man. And if you go on YouTube, put up some of these videos or whatever, there's some people gonna talk about it, but there's gonna be a lot of stuff left out.
Man,
You
I'm
know,
gonna
so you
tell
get
you that
part of it. So you may get
that book.
step one, and you may get 16, but you won't get the
Look,
whole steps.
look,
You know
that
what I
book
mean?
I talked about, the Banker's Code. You can go type it up on YouTube, and I mean, it may be like a robotic voice that's narrating it, but there's an audio book
The whole
on
book
it.
is on there.
It's
Oh, it's the
the
whole book
whole
on there. Okay.
audio book. Because when I first read it, I ended up reading it along with the audio book that was going on. Because sometimes I just like to, engage in my visual and audio stimulation. So I watch, like I said, I watch anime, so I'm always reading when I watch TV. I'm reading subtitles and watching. So
mhm.
I like to engage multiple parts of my, my sensories, in that way. So I think that, yeah, it's all this information is out here. I know there's a website, there's a bunch of different websites. I'm not gonna get on there. Go on TikTok, and you can find websites that show you where to download books and PDFs and things like that for your own educational purposes.
Mhm.
Um, you know, we live in the age where all of this information is literally at your fingertips, but it's all in if you choose to just find it, type in. We all got computers in our that we walk around with in our pockets. We own computers. We got tablets. I my
Everything.
son was playing our Nintendo Switch. It's YouTube on the Nintendo Switch, on the PlayStation, on everything. The DVD player got a thing for you to go on YouTube and stuff. Now, like, there's so many different ways that you can access mediums that you can access information. So there's no excuse,
Audio
which is
books, like you say, audio books, man. We're in the car. How many in the car, man? Just put your headphones set in or whatever you're gonna do and sit back and listen. Like my boy
Oh,
Zig Ziglar say, man, it's a rolling university. Your
mhm.
car should be a rolling university.
It should
So
be. And that's what I say when I tell people say they don't have time to read, or I'm like, it's so many ways that you can listen to or get information, when you in your car, or, while you're cleaning up your house, you can have it in the background because you have a reticular activation system that's always on, that's listening, right? And I heard a person say, and I want to say it was Eric Thomas, like, I would rather you read one page 100 times than 100 pages once, right? Because it's not just about reading it too. It's about taking that information in and learning how to transmute that information and activate it for yourself. And a lot of times when we first read information, it's foreign. And so you got to go reread it and reread it again. And so it's okay if you got one book at home that you read already, pick it up and read it again. Especially if you got through it, that means that's content that you enjoyed because you got
Hey,
through the book. Now pick it up and read it
but
again.
will it
And I
help you too?
guarantee you, yeah,
Yeah.
that you're going to hear something different, see something different, or experience that book differently each time you pick it up, just because that's just how the mind works, right? It's only going to absorb so much of the information, but as soon as you make yourself like knowledgeable of it, now it can take it in. I know I read that book, what is it, Get Rich, not, I want to say Get Rich or Die Trying, but I think that's a song.
no,
um
that's an
No, but
album.
that's 50
that's an
Cent.
album.
Get Rich. You
But what's the
got a
other
book.
one?
I got that book too.
Mm,
Get Rich or Die
mm.
Trying.
No,
Um,
no, that's
Think and
not
Grow
Get Rich.
Rich. You
Think
think?
and Grow Rich. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
I've listened to this book. I said Get Rich or Die Trying. I think that's Big Puff Daddy or Big somebody.
50. That's
Fif-
50 Cent.
50 Cent. Okay.
50%.
So
50
not Get Rich or Die Trying. That's a
Mhm.
song. But Think and Grow Rich. I have listened to that book maybe 7 times. And I tell you, every time I listen to this book and just decide to, like, I'm gonna put it on, it is something new that I'm like, I don't remember him saying that the first time, or I don't
Mhm.
remember, understanding that. And these are why those books stay like in rotation for hundreds and hundreds of years, because they're so full of knowledge that you're gaining each time you experience it, you know?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
it's not Get Rich or Die Trying. It's another
No,
book
it's
I got
not.
to 50. I'm gonna post it today. Yeah, it's another book. I got it.
Think
I
and,
Yeah.
picked it
think
up
and
So
Grow.
every time I
about a
think
month
of
or two ago.
Think and Grow Rich, I
Yeah.
always in my mind say Get
I
Rich or
wanted
Die
to
Trying.
also,
I like
But
hip hop.
but
What is it? Angel was, I think, what did you
go
say,
ahead.
man?
in regards to those of you that are interested in, self-teaching and getting acclimated with, whether it's a degree or some type of certificate, you can go to Coursera.com. They have accredited
Yeah.
teachers, people that are well versed in areas of business, history, things that you want to be more knowledgeable about, whether it's for the sake of, running for a position or running your business, or, just trying to see how is it that you can fit in society and get the information that you need
Oh
so you
yeah.
can turn your knowledge into power moves or
Mhm.
wealth. And it's a beautiful place where you can get all the knowledge you need, and you can also get accredited so that you can change your life financially, um, intellectually, and move on in society for the sake of yourself, your children, and what you want to build for your life.
Yeah, that's the
So
easiest thing that
Coursera.
any of us can
Yeah.
change.
Coursera.
I go to was it Udemy? Um,
You know,
I have so many courses that I've gone through an investment banking course. I learned Python on there. I learned how to
ooh,
code in Python through Udemy. Um, tax how to file. It was a course I took on there on how to file taxes. So yeah, there's I agree. I got the Coursera app before the Apple University thing started tripping. I I was on that on the phone, because Apple had the Apple U on there. I think now you got to actually have like a code from the court or from the school or whatever. But yeah, just there's so many outlets right now that there's really no excuse for you not to change the easiest thing, like out of behavior, habits, out of all these different things that you have control over. The easiest thing you can do is develop a new skill, because that just requires you inputting something new into your brain.
Correct.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I would say also to apply it though,
Oh yeah,
right? As you
apply it.
read it, start
Yeah, knowledge
applying
is
it. Then
useless,
that way you'll be able to retain.
but
You
you apply.
retain what you're reading, right? If you look up something, you read something about how to sell, start putting that stuff in implement it immediately. You, you know.
Yeah,
So,
but you
but
remember that's why I said what I
like
did with
Sheila
the
said,
insurance. You remember I said that's what I did with the insurance. That's what
yeah,
helped me. That's what, Not that that insurance exam is a difficult thing to really pass, but one of the things that literally helped me is I internalized everything that was pretty much on there. Like, you have to learn about FICA taxes, right? The old age and disability, the money that goes for Social Security. You have to learn about these things, and so for most people, that I was taking the test with and I studied when I was working, and we had to first learn and get our licenses. A lot of people just couldn't do that. It was just this foreign concept where, like, it just seemed like it had no connection to their own personal lives. Whereas for me, I'm thinking, hey, well, I know my Uncle June was up here talking about, his Social Security or whoever it is, but cousin, whoever, my grandparents, everybody's worried about these things now, right? They're calculating credits when they get to retirement age. So for me, it was like, let me go ahead and let me learn this now. I think I was like 29 when I got my license. Um, let me get this information now and really digest it, because whether I like it or not, I'm gonna have to deal with it you know I got
yeah,
kids. I know I'm gonna die one day. That's the one thing that I can't escape. Father time and death. That's just. So let me take the time now while I'm younger and I have the resources and the time to do it, and then you internalize it and put it to ways where it's going, because I think that's where a lot of people mess up at. Like, math is something that I mentioned earlier. Math is not something that people really try to learn, because there's nothing that internalizes it and shows people the immediate benefit for learning it. But you'll catch somebody learning how to scam a credit card and how to do this whole intricate process of breaking through an ATM or some
that's real.
wild, getting on the dark web and Tor and VPNs and stuff like that. But they do it because they see the incentive. They see the immediate incentive. So I say, you know, the best thing that you could do, because your brain is a computer, is program it yourself. Program yourself to know what incentives that you, if you know, for me, it was all right. I got kids. I want to make sure that I'm taking care of them. If something happens to me, God forbid, I want to get the most out of this relationship. So that's what helped me get through. And really, I felt like as I learned more about insurance, I didn't feel like I was just learning something to take a test. I felt like I was learning some information that didn't nobody want me to have. And that
Exactly.
made it that much
Exactly.
better.
So listen, I got a scenario here, right? So we want to make sure that, of course, we've been teaching. You've been teaching this whole time, right? So we want to break it down to the average person. So let's say, I don't know if you guys need to write it down or whatever the case is. So we're talking about we're gonna put this down to a lady, right? So let's say she makes about 40. She's about 40 years old, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
She has two kids.
Hmm.
She makes $42,000 a year.
Hmm.
She has zero savings. She has she has 10K in her 401K. She's been there for a few years, right? Been there about 3 years. So that's about what, 35K, about 3,500 a month or something like that. Her rent is 1,200. Utilities a couple
Hmm.
hundred, right? Food's about 300. What would you tell that person in that situation? How do they be able to, based off what she's making, how would she be able to save money and for her future, right? What would you recommend her to do for life insurance? Like, how could she do that? Or
So
is that
before
possible
I,
at that
yeah, I mean, it
kind of
is.
money?
So before I ever tell somebody about a
Okay,
product that I say, hey, you need to use, because don't get me wrong, I believe in these
did I
products
lose you guys?
to the point to where I
Okay,
own them. But the first thing is going to be, you know, your cash flow, that you have to start looking at your family as a business the same way you look at a business. Business is only as strong as its cash flow statement, how much money is flowing in and out this business. So when it comes to people, right, it's something I was talking to my wife about, and I started doing, which is, rather than us just kind of creating these arbitrary grocery lists, let me write down the meals that we're gonna make. Let me make the schedule for the meals, and then if I make the schedule for the meals, well, then I can write down the exact ingredients that I need. I can take inventory. Do we have this already? Now it's not, hey, why you buy this? And she be getting on me. Why you get this? We already got 4 5 bags of cheese in here already. Why you go get some more? I ain't
Man, I do
paying
that all
attention.
the time, bro.
You
I
know,
do it all the
hey,
time. Like, we already got this, man. Yeah, I do it all the
but
time.
it goes into becoming aware, right? When you're aware of your circumstances and you're aware of what you're doing, because the only way that you're going, and regardless of any situation, the only way that you're going to make or live the life that you want to live is to make more money than you're spending. That's why for a lot of times I'll tell you that when I first got into insurance and I first started learning how to do the stuff with the retirement plans off of it, the first group of people that I had initially talked to were CDL drivers. A lot of guys that were just single on the road all the time because they ain't have a lot of bills, they ain't had rent, they ain't had nothing like that. For the most part, they were just out on the road making money. But in a
Stacking
situation where
chips.
yeah, but if I'm talking to
I got my
a single
CDL.
mother,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
definitely say, like, let's look at where you're spending money at right now, because 9 times out of 10 in the society we live in, there's probably some money that's going out that isn't controlled. There's some money
It
somewhere
don't
that we
have to be.
have right now that's getting spent that doesn't have to be spent, or it could just mean we need to become aware of our habits and what we're doing on a regular basis. Our
So number
relationship
one
with
is
money.
control the outflow
Yeah, you got to
of cash.
control your cash flow.
With
You need to
outflow
know what you
cash.
have.
Make sure there's no frivolous. So that's number one. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let it get away from
Now,
you.
Okay.
Well,
That's you. And that right there, you automatically get a raise, right? If you start spending it on this, let's say you got Netflix and you got these other different sites or whatever the case is that you're not really even using, or you don't even need it all because you always at work, right? You may want to take off a couple of those. That's a couple extra bucks you can save by just doing that. You
and
know what I'm
you
saying?
know
So
the other
that's
thing.
important, man.
So the other thing I say is, a lot of times, people get on social media, right? I say change your social media following, in the sense of change what information is getting plugged in. If you see, for me, I'm gonna tell. I was just joking with my brother-in-law. I was like, I never thought I'd see the day where I'm up here clicking the picture of the girl twerking, the video of the girl twerking, and I'm hitting the not interested right now because I don't want to see that. I want to see this guy telling me how I can,
I
you
get
know,
this.
you know, I forget what the guy's name is, but he goes and tells
Maximize.
people how they can get hacks with airlines, how they can get hacks at the store, how you can,
Mhm.
negotiate your phone bill with it. That's the type of information I say you're gonna get on there and scroll when you go to the bathroom, when you're sitting at work bored. Change the information that's coming in, because you'll get a bunch of ideas, you know.
Mhm.
You'll get so many ideas once you just, and these two things didn't cost you any money, just some time and some effort. So
Mhm.
now once we change that, well, now
So
you got to
money and mindset now.
money in mind. So if you know where
So
you got
let's
to
take on
have a
this mindset
realistic.
now, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's like when somebody wants
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
repair their credit. You can't repair your credit until you run your credit and you know exactly what your credit score is and what's on there. So if we don't know what our
Facts.
financial
Facts.
situation is, we don't have a budget, we don't know where we're spending money, then you can't hope to really think about what am I going to be doing for retirement. You don't even know what's going to happen next month.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
I think
Man.
both of those
So
analogies were powerful. One, the food one was great because I had did that. But I think it speaks to efficiency, right?
I do it all
Like
the time. Yeah.
when you start to become more efficient, then you start to think more efficiently, right? So thinking grocery shopping, everybody got a grocery shopping list. Eggs, milk, butter, hamburger meat, whatever, whatever. And so then you get home, but when it's time to cook, you still got to go to the store because now it's like, well, oh, I need some potatoes because I want to cook some, or I need some rice. But when you start thinking meals, right, and you start thinking, oh, what meal do I want to cook? you're talking about efficiency now, and then you're doing the checklist. Do I got the potatoes? Do I got the garlic? Do I got the basil? Whatever I need to cook this meal. So now when I go grocery shopping, it's less waste, right? And I'm more efficient when it comes to cooking whatever it is that I'm gonna cook. So I'm not throwing away as much, or got, I don't know, pickles in my refrigerator that I don't even use pickles, or you know what I mean? Stuff that I don't use, but because I've been trained to buy these things from growing up, I just put them in a basket, but they never get used. So I think that that's a mindset shift in the way that we're thinking about the money that you're spending, right? Versus just doing it from tradition, right? Because this is how I used to do it. And it's definitely more efficient, right? Efficient. And then
Yeah.
the second thing you talked about was programming, right? So I think that if people knew how Google search work or how the social media work, right? The ads that come up is what you have told the phone you're interested in looking at. So what you have stopped on the screen to see
Algorithm.
it, the
And
algorithm, right? And
and
how
they'll
you
test
can,
it. They'll
yeah.
they'll they'll test you. They'll send some, because the biggest thing that I've learned about, and you're in psychology and therapy. What's the guy's Alfred Kinsley, the guy who was the I think I forget what the he's basically um one of the foremost minds on sexual behavior within
Out
but
of out of, I mean, Freud, Freud.
um what is this guy? I think it's Alfred Kinsley. I think his
Okay.
name
Okay.
is what it
Okay.
is. But um, I remember watching. I think this was the guy who kind of convinced Hugh Hefner to start Playboy. And I say this because obviously we live in this hypersexual, um,
Mm-hmm.
really this environment that pushes consumerism, sex, all of these different things. So it's like this is going to get put in front of you regardless. I think it's just, especially for like I work with a lot of young men, right? One like my I think my youngest client is like 23, 24. So when I'm talking to him, yeah, bro, just nah, don't look at the video girls. Don't look at that. We're not trying to focus on that. Once you program this and you say, nah, I only want to see certain things, that changes the dynamic and what's going on in your head. That'll be, I've seen social media literally change people's entire moods. People come in and be happy, but they got to arguing with somebody and saw something about Trump that made them mad and did. And my thing is, you could either learn how to cope with and go through that, which I leave that to you, Miss Sheila, because that is what you specialize in. But my suggestion is don't see it, don't look at it.
Yeah.
Put you don't want to see it. The
Yeah.
easiest way to not see something is to not see it,
Right.
you know.
But I think it's
Facts.
programming, right? So it's
Yeah.
beyond that. It's that you're constantly programming your mind with the information that you choose to use. And something like a social media is showing you what's coming up in your feed regularly is what you're telling that phone to show you. So it's interesting when I see people say, only thing in my news feed is fights and I'm tired of all the negativity. And it's like, well, it's some way you're telling your phone that that's what you want to see. So either you're clicking on it a lot or you're pausing on that part a lot. And like you said, because you can have your feed where it only shows you, well, I'm going to say only, but the majority of the stuff is more positive, and you may get some stuff that is not like that. But if your feed is just negative all the time, then it's telling more about what you're telling your the feed to give you, the algorithm that you're giving it. And so I
Yeah.
thought those are two great points, especially when we're talking about entrepreneur in programming, how efficient you can be and how effective you are in saving money or time or whatever. Do you have a clear plan? And to me, life is like that. Are you going grocery shopping and just doing stuff? Or are you making meals? Right? Like, are you truly like, this is what I'm cooking, so this is what I need, right? This is the kind of business that I'm going
So
into. So these are the type of people I need to be talking to, and this is the type of information I need. Because when you're clear about that, I think you now can get the ingredients to
Mhm.
make that meal or to make that project happen or to make that endeavor happen versus just going at it just because this is what people say do, and
so
that's a shift.
yeah, that's definitely a good point. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was
Yeah,
I
it's
was just
definitely a good point,
agreeing.
right?
I was agreeing.
Yeah. So let's think about it. So now we let's get back to our scenario, right? So she's 40 years old. We say she has two kids, right? So she makes
Hmm.
$42,000 a year. Um,
Hmm.
but she has zero savings,
Hmm.
and she has like 10K in her 401K. What would you recommend in this situation? What would you think? What would you do in that? Well, what would you recommend her in that situation?
What is she coming for?
Yeah, that's because
Well,
like I said,
well,
it has to deal with what she wants to do out of it. Because let's say it's like, all right, well, I want to, maybe
well.
it's for
Okay,
the
let's do this.
kids.
Okay, let's do
Maybe,
this. Let's do this then. So, okay, so you know her, she's a single woman, right? She's making
mhm.
42,000 out there. She got two kids. She has no savings in her account right now. So the first thing, so if I'm in that situation, the first thing I would think it'd be, I want to make sure I build up my emergency fund and put it
Yeah,
in
I
my
mean, and
savings
that
account,
so
right?
so that go that's still the mindset part. Now you've gone
Yeah. Cool.
I can hear you,
Um,
Jay. Can you hear me, Jay?
okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jay. I can't hear
Yeah.
Johnny though.
Okay. Johnny, you breaking up. Yeah, I can't hear you now. I can't hear you, brother. So let me run. He may pop back in here in a second.
Yeah. So
So
you're
we run
saying
a
that
scenario down. So
you
okay,
got a woman, she's
you moving
single, she
now.
got
Go
two.
ahead, Johnny.
all
Yeah,
right,
go
I'm
ahead. Go
back
ahead. Yeah,
now.
go ahead, sis.
But no, I was saying it's that's the part where we're talking about the mindset and the money have to meet because now we're talking about if you can't save, you can't invest. Because now all we're talking about is you having money that's put someplace that's out of your control, so to speak. So if you couldn't stand to have this money in this savings account, chances are, if you go get this money to these real estate investors, you're gonna be antsy. Look at where my money at? Where my money at? You got the wrong mindset for it. So I think that before anything goes, when you learn about money itself, money, wealth, income, the difference in those things, there has to be a certain level of patience that's also taught because um, anything that just comes
But
too
we all
quickly,
but
because this
we've
is
all
how
been in this situation. Go
yeah,
ahead.
but
I'm
this
sorry. I'm
this is
sorry.
how
Go
I
ahead,
would
bro.
this is how I would talk to this is how I would literally talk because if I'm talking to a 40-year-old woman who's a professional, the one thing that I'm pretty sure that I could get her to agree with me with is let's say you apply to a job and they call you right back in 30 minutes. We can pretty much all agree that that probably won't be the best job that it may be some issues because typically speaking the jobs that call you right back immediately, right, that immediate turnaround, that's not something that's really quality. The companies that you may want to go work for, they may take a while to go through that process and sift and recruit and make sure all of that. So I look at that as the same way. If that's what you're looking at as far as how you're going to earn money from a job, then what would you expect when you're putting your money to work for you? You have to give it time. You have to and so that's where we would go. And I'd speak on the insurance policy because technically speaking, you're already saving if you're putting money inside that 401k. Your hands are just
Yeah.
buying
So
and
that's
you're
what.
going to be penalized if you touch it.
Exactly.
My thing is
True.
you
True.
understand
So,
the concept.
so okay. So with her not having two kids, right, and her checking her savings account is on empty, right. So I would think in my mind, what I would think, I would be like, okay, with your 401k, you really kind of poor right now. I would put a pause on the 401k. I will build up my emergency fund. So just in case you
I
lose your
can't say
job,
that. I can't
you
even say that. Is
okay.
it
So
vested? That's the first
because think
question,
of
right?
okay,
Because we got to check if the 401k is vested or not, right? So we need to make sure that if you walk away from this company, do you get to keep how much of that do you get to keep and walk away with, in that account with Prudential or whatever the company is, do you get to keep that? Because then that's another situation because there are ways that we could say, okay, we could put this money inside of a life insurance policy. We may have to take the tax hit on it, right? We may have to, but this is just an option that may go in there. That money that's sitting in that 401k could be used to fund insurance policies where that money is more protected and you have more control over it. And you may just have to take that hit,
no,
which
no,
means
I definitely understand. I definitely understand. I definitely understand exactly what you're saying,
yeah,
on the long play, you're absolutely right. But as for right now, I'm pretty sure if you a mother of two, you making 42,000 off you got nothing in savings, you under a lot of stress, right? So we
I
talked about far as the mindset, absolutely. budgeting.
Yeah.
Make sure when you go in different places, you got a map on what you're gonna spend your money on. But I think the next step, and for me, it will be to get my savings up a little bit, just in case I get sick a couple of weeks, I still can pay my bills,
But no,
right?
that is
So if
an emergency
I would
fund is
say,
always
in
there,
my
but
this is my thought. Yeah. So
where's that gonna come from though? But
my
because
thought would be
here's the
okay.
realistic situation. Wait a
So
second, Jay. The
okay.
realistic situation is when you're sitting down and you're talking to somebody like that, right? And they're talking about an emergency fund, they're gonna look at you and say, well, where's that gonna come from? Right? Where's this money
Okay.
that I'm
So
just automatically
here's
gonna
my
be
answer to that.
saving?
Here's my answer to that. So it depends on how much she's investing into a 401k, right? So maybe she's
Hmm.
investing 10%, right? Maybe you can drop that down to 3% and then and get that 7% now going towards your savings,
Yeah, and
right? So you
that's
can
what we
build that
do.
up in that situation.
So I'll
Yeah,
show you.
yeah.
We
So
have a way
now,
that we show people. I bypass. I don't do a traditional savings account. So that's the first thing that I'm going to say right now. It's going we're going to
so that's
scratch
why we're
that
missing it okay. I
because
got you now. I get it now.
I'm not going to tell you to
Okay,
do that. I'm going to tell you put your money inside of a
okay.
life
I got
insurance
you.
policy because I can show you how you can make that life insurance policy liquid. I'm going to show you how you can put your money in a place
Okay,
where it's
okay.
more
I
advantageous
forget
for
who I'm
you.
talking to, man. My bad, bro.
Yeah, I don't do
My
because
bad,
That's
here's the
my
why he
thing.
bad, my
called
bad, my
Johnny
bad.
Leverage. That's why
Yeah,
he's
Your
Johnny
called
Leverage. My
Johnny
bad, bro.
Leverage
My bad.
because he's
You
gonna
your
tell
said who
you
I'm
how
savings
to
talking
account.
to.
leverage your
Once
money.
once
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
that's like I'm saying with that situation, right? Because your savings account isn't making any money, right? Even though you have it, because we, especially now, if I'm talking to somebody that lives in 2022 in the crypto world that we're on, and Sister Angel was on there talking earlier about, the forex and the crypto and everything else that's going on. We live in an environment right now where you know people are looking for ways to make money work for them because it's so easy to see and hear opportunities, things that were once excluded to certain groups. you know Stop, think about, like, I remember when I was younger, like before I graduated high school, a stock portfolio was something that was a little difficult to really kind of have. My grandma had one for me because she had her ducks in a row, but that wasn't something that I traditionally saw. But now you can go open up a custodial account with UNES. You can go open up an account, I think for your kids with Robinhood. You can do all of these different things. It's easy, it's more easily accessible. So I'm already gonna tell somebody, all right, look, you can keep that savings account if you just gonna have it, and that's just where some money's going. But I'm gonna say if we got a choice between putting our money someplace where it's gonna earn for us and it's protected versus it's just gonna sit there, then we're gonna put it in some place
Is
that's
it
gonna
still
earn
liquid?
for us. Yes, it's still liquid.
You said still liquid. Okay, so that solved the problem right there. See, I didn't add that component to it, so I guess I'm thinking a different little way when you. So that makes
Oh
sense, man.
yeah,
If you can make
yeah,
if you can make more money by putting it in and it's still liquid, so if I run into some issues, I can say, let me go get this money to pay these bills until I get back on my feet. That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's
yeah.
all about. So just think about it, man. If I'm not mistaken, the average woman they say in America make about $42,000, right? Probably have, maybe one, maybe two kids or whatever. They may be in this situation right now. And they wonder, how can I do some of the things that you're talking about? You just solved the whole equation of what you just
Yeah,
said.
I
It makes
mean,
a lot of sense. Be able to stay mobile too. I mean, stay liquid as well. Come on, man. That's it. There's no excuse.
and that's
Cause
it's how
we
you
all
look
get
at
some
it.
money. It's this money leaking. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like assets. So this
Go
is
ahead,
what I
brother.
try to coach people to look at life insurance policies. The same way that you look at a property, right? You go buy a house, you paying that mortgage, you building equity in that house, right? That's something that you could take a loan against that value. We treat life insurance policies the same way. We treat it as an asset. So, rather than, shoot, this woman doesn't even necessarily have to get the policy on herself. I would advise it because, but at the same time, she could get it on her kids. Let's say this was a situation like, all right, mother or two. This could have been my mom. This could have been my mother because when we moved down here, it was just my mother, me, and my younger sister. So if I were to go back and have to tell my mom, and it is, and especially from the fact that, like, so my mom, she's a cancer survivor, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So from working, I've had to do due diligence to find, companies that wouldn't try to bar any of her past medical history against her, things of that nature. So in certain situations, I would even say, hey, you got kids, you got insurable interest. So you could go take these policies out on your kids, right? This can be what will serve as your kids' college fund. You can be the owner of the policy. And this can be something that's specifically for your children, but as you being the owner, you're able to make the calls. So put $200 away, $100 a month for each kid. That's something that I don't know too many moms that if they restructured their lives to where, okay, well, I got clarity on my spending now. I have a clear system of how I'm going to save. I don't know any mother, no any loving mother who wouldn't be willing to invest $100 if they could afford it into their kids policy. So I say do that, because at that point in time you're going to be doing two things. One, logistically, you're going to be building up an asset, two assets actually. But then on the emotional side of things, that's something, that peace of mind, right? That peace of mind that you're doing something to build an asset. Because I know people who I graduated school with, and they had their rent being paid by policies that their parents bought for them when they were younger.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, yo, you're not working. Where you work? You just quit your job at Best Buy. Oh man, my rent's taken care of. My grandpa got this insurance policy. They're taking out loans. Like, that's real.
Mhm.
So, I feel like, as a parent myself, I don't know what it's like to be a mother, but as a father, if I could create any type of advantage for my child, while, like I said, the goal is reallocating. So in that case, what you said, maybe she's putting 10% in, and the company only matches 3%. Well, let's go and let's deduct how much we're putting inside that 401k, and let's reallocate that money to these insurance policies. Because it's not that we, like I said, the goal is never to try to pull money out of thin air. That's the toughest thing. And that's the reason why I link in with people like you. um I had a guy who showed up at the event. His name was Rudy Federico. He helps people start franchises. My brother, he does the payroll rebels. He helps people with forex trading. I connect with people like you all, because when I need to point someone in a direction of, I help people manage money. I help people manage money and manage their assets,
Mhm.
you know. So I make sure that I have an ecosystem around me to say, okay, well, we have some ideas. What is it that you're interested in? What is it that you'd like to do?
Yeah.
Because in the same sense, I know with Rudy, he was telling me one day that there's situations as far as franchise ownership where, somebody has to come up with like 20% of what the payment for the franchise, and then the rest is financed through their relationship with the SBA, and they have ways of making that happen. So if I'm sitting down and I'm talking to a 40-year-old mother with two kids, and I'm like, well, hey, maybe we can sit down with Alame, right? Let's get your credit. Let's see where we can find some other money in some other places.
Credit, yeah.
Let's look at. I know some people who do grant writing. So finding some ways for you to get some of these loans, for you to be women-owned businesses. That's some way that you can easily tap into funding in these situations. But then it's all about, let's expand our mind and see what else could we do. It may involve us changing our mindset and using OPM to fund another operation to where we're just going to get money off of it. But that first start was the basics. After we come established with the savings part, now we're able to join in on other aspects of how can we make some more money. Oh, you work in what neighborhood? Cool. Let me tell you about this thing called bird dogging my guy Jay Wicker is into, right? You see all these houses in your neighborhood, he can sit down and he'll tell you how this works. I have even programs with some of the stuff that I do where it's like an affiliate situation. So if you bring somebody to me, I'll come up with an agreement with some people to where, hey, I'll pay you this much on a deal if you do X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
And we'll put that in writing, where they people who send me clients, and hey, they make a good sizable income off of just referring someone to me. So it goes into, like I said, getting a snapshot and awareness of where your money is at. Then you have to get your mind right, and then combine the two so that way you start saving money. And then at that point in time, you're in a safe spot to where you can start thinking of, what are some additional ways that I can do this? Maybe somebody starts a YouTube channel with white noise and rain and stuff like that, right? These are all different ways you can make passive income that don't take a lot of time. Um, one of the things that I tell you I did on
Yeah.
just to make some extra money is it's a website called User Interviews. You know, you make a profile and they pay $30 to $200 and various amounts, you know, on surveys that you could take. So, you know, there are so many different ways in
Yeah.
the world we
I'm
live
t-
in
yeah.
now that I'll sit there
To
and I'll
make
show
money.
you how you do it. You have to listen and follow the prescription. But if you do follow the prescription and you follow the method, you'll come out on top because you'll at least, even if you don't utilize these moves or you don't utilize every play that I tell you, you have that knowledge. And I'm going to make sure that you have that knowledge when you walk away from us having our conversation. So now you walk away with the real wealth, which is an option.
Mhm.
Man, listen.
I like
He,
that.
he just broke that down. Yeah, he definitely
I
broke that
like that.
down, man. So I mean, I know it's a lot of
Awesome.
people out there. There's a lot of people out there now, man, who are in probably bad situations. You can get on the other side, man, but it takes planning, right? Sacrifice, all that good stuff, man. You can definitely do it, man. And you gotta see his name, man. Johnny Leverage is his name. And what you say your game is again? Johnny Leverage is the
I'm
name.
part of the
And what's his
look, I'm part
game?
of the money. It's the money game. That's the
It's
common
the money
denominator.
money team.
Yeah, you know, we do business advisory
See,
service, but at the end of it all, this everybody in it, no matter what business that you in, if you're in the United States of America, you here to make the dollar and you got to pay taxes.
Hmm. This is true.
yes, sir.
Ain't no way around it.
Would you
Whether
say
you
Sheila, you got
cooking
a
food,
thought?
giving
Well, I was saying
massages.
that I was given a task at the beginning of the show
Oh, she got an
Oh
acronym.
yeah, yes, 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 yeah. Here
to
we go.
come up with an acronym for leverage. And so I came up with one based off of what Johnny was saying, basically. So, leverage, let your efforts and your vocation elevate the results in your assets, your growth, and your energy. And that's leverage.
Mm. Okay, one more
That's
time.
And
good.
Let's do
vote.
that
I love
again.
it. I
Let's
love
do that again.
That'll
So,
do.
leverage.
Do it again.
To leverage, it is to let your efforts and your vocation, if you know what vocation is, just your calling, your mission, your purpose, your job, whatever career. So let your efforts and your vocation elevate the results in your assets, in your growth, and in your energy. And that's leverage. It's you're letting your efforts
Wow.
and your vocation elevate the results in your
I
assets,
love it.
in
I
your
love it. I love
money,
it. I love it.
your money
I
and your
love it.
growth, emotional growth, and in your energy, right? So that's leverage.
Yeah, that's
Dope,
powerful.
dope, dope, dope. Man, listen. This has been. Hey, listen. I always say this, man, but this has been another one, man. This is powerful here, man. A lot of good information. I already knew. I already knew what it was gonna be. So I wanted to make sure I was able to touch the ladies out there who's going through some things out there, man. So I think we actually did that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I
So,
think that was a
and
good
this will be a
question.
good workbook. Say it again.
I said I think that was a great question. I think that's what I was alluding to earlier. Like the average person is making $50,000, right? So how does Johnny Leverage help them to maximize that
Yeah.
50,000? And I'm glad that you asked it in a different way because it definitely gave a different perspective and like creatively things
Yeah.
that could be done.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that before I
And
hop
it
off here,
showed me
I'll
some
even
things
say
too.
is hold on, wait a minute. Am I on mute? Okay, I'm not on mute. Um leveraging expenses inside of a life insurance policy. So once again, like I said, if I were to talk to this 40-year-old mother, um, you know, it doesn't matter as far as a lot of times like, yeah, we could look at what you're gonna save, and that would be, let's say if we were creating the her own personal bank, right, within this life insurance policy, what she's gonna save is what we call a reserve, right? The same way that a bank has to have a reserve, an insurance company has to have a reserve, this is going to be her banking reserve. But as far as what she would flow through the policy, right? We leverage that. We want to flow our whatever the rent is, the cell phone bill, the car note. You know, these are ways that we're literally showing money that you can, you know, from 5 to 7 days, right? We can flow this and you have access to it within 5 to 7 days. We're putting it through an insurance policy and we're taking a loan out. The reason we're doing this is because these policies historically earn about 7% interest credit. That's historically the average, 7%. The loans that come out cost 3.5% to 4%. Most recently, I've seen like fixed loans, and some of my clients have to deal with like 3.5%. But if I'm earning 7 and it costs me 3.5 or 4 to use this, then I'm making 3 to 3.5% just off of putting my money through here. So that's one of the things that I say after we have the foundational setting and we understand where our money is flowing and we have that under control. Well, now let's figure out a way to earn money and turn those expenses into revenue. Right. Let's figure out a way to do that. And that's why, it goes into that next level of, okay, we set up what's called flip policies, right? We call them flexible lifetime income program, but we do it through life insurance policies. And it's a way for us to show, we could show this mother how she could set up a policy for herself and her 2 kids. And we use that money, the same dollar, like I was saying, to flow through those. But we're just leveraging expenses. We're not pulling money out of nowhere. We're just using the same money that we're going to earn and spend and pay the bills with anyway. So it's we have different ways. We have basic ways, we have more advanced ways, and I usually like to leave it up to you know people's temperament, right? Someone's temperament is usually based off of how someone's relationship with money is, how aggressive they are. There are some people that I'm just gonna send to you and say, hey, you need to go, you interested in real estate, you need to go holler at Jay, you need to holler at Jarrell, you need to holler at Jason, Lenny. These are the guys you need to holler at because they're gonna give you all the game for that. But then there's some people to where I say, you know if you find this house or whatever the case is, just they may not even care about it, right? They may not even be interested. They may have a completely different disposition. So I may have to be the intermediary between you and them for them to be able to see, like, oh, this is profitable. This is something that I could do. So, like I said, not everybody is going to be treated the same way because one mother may be more aggressive, based off of her own. And Sheila, you can attest to this, the differences in people's backgrounds and, how that goes towards their aggressiveness and their relationship towards money and how and their risk tolerance. So that's one way we want to go about it. I just wanted to give both of those examples because one way is for somebody who's more conservative and traditional, and not necessarily looking for the newest thing. But then for somebody who's like, yeah, I ain't got no savings, but I do throw some money inside this Robinhood account here and there and everywhere else. Well, I'm looking at that as, okay, well, you got the mindset, you at least thinking about it and you want to go in this direction. So if that's the case, let's U-turn. Let's make sure we cover the basics real
Yeah.
quick. But now that we covered the basics,
Yeah.
now we got some more. I got some stuff that I guarantee you ain't never seen before. I got some stuff I know that you want to do something next level that nobody around you is doing. Oh yeah, I got that for you. But then, like I said, it just varies on the person and what they're really, what they're comfortable with,
Yeah.
the suitability.
No,
Right. I
love
like
it.
that.
Love it. All right, guys. You guys have any final thoughts? Hey, you smoked it, Johnny, man. You smoked it, bro. Salute to you, bro. Everybody got any final thoughts?
Mr. Johnny, I have a question.
Yeah.
How long does the
Okay.
money have to be in the insurance policy so that they can start leveraging some of their finances that they have put in the
I mean,
insurance policy?
we have people taking loans out of the policy as early as the first month that they set the policy up. So it
Mm.
it it depends. So like let's say I have somebody who does an annual premium. So if someone's doing an annual premium and we're doing a flow based off of an annual premium, um, then literally they're gonna put one payment in, and then in that same month we're gonna take the loan out of the policy. So it just depends on the person and on the structure of it. But typically it's as early as in, the first month that we're able to start, leveraging loans inside the policy. Some situations people may it may actually be like a savings account for them. So they may take longer, and they just may just be building into the policy on a long-term basis. But it, like I said, it just depends on your strategy and how aggressive it is.
Mhm.
Great question.
Well, I
Great
thank
question.
you for the
Thank you.
information. I think it's definitely
Absolutely.
perspective, and
Absolutely.
I think it's definitely something that, another way of creating it. I love the whole run the money through it and you're getting 3% interest off of it, that whole where you're making money actually to pay your bills. So I think that you gave a lot of creative ways
Yeah, that's
to,
dope.
well, you sold me. Let me say that. So I haven't met with you yet. You definitely sold me with this interview. So yeah, then I'm thinking
Thank
in
you.
Me
my mind,
too.
Yeah,
like,
Me
that,
too.
who do I need to get Johnny to talk to? Like, I think he need to talk to a couple of my friends just in
Yeah.
this one. And I've heard you talk, over time, but I think just really digging into what that looks like has truly helped to open my eyes to it a
yeah.
lot more.
And,
Insurance is something
and
that
that's what I
anybody
was
can
thinking too.
tap into.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
And
brother
that's
Jay.
what I
My
was thinking
bad.
too. When I was thinking, I was like, I was saying, man, we would talk several times. I'm saying, look, we need to get you on the show to kind of ask you a few questions and let you do your thing. You know what I'm saying? Because like I always told you when we first met, I said the information that you know is it's a part that we don't know. Like we know how to flip real estate from residential, commercial, all that other stuff. But there's another part to this game that we absolutely know nothing about. And you the plug. I always tell you, man, you the plug, bro. You know the part that I don't hear nobody talk about stuff like that at all, bro. I've never heard, like you just said, my whole thought process was making sure they got their savings built up, whatever the case is. You blew that whole thing up. You're like, no, man, you still liquid over here. Why not have your money, make money for you while you do it? I'm like, what? You know what? That makes sense. So now I got to reevaluate what I'm doing. I need to get back
Bro,
on that shit myself personally, bro. So
bro,
it's like, man,
and
that
we
was
ain't even
huge, bro.
talked about
That
the
was huge.
taxes, bro. We ain't even talked about the taxes because the one thing. And before
We
I
need
go,
a, we need a, I need a
I just
consultation.
want
That's what I
to
need to pay for the
just
consultation.
before I go, I just want to say this to everybody. A lot of the times, and I've said this on the other podcast, the real estateaholics one, about like with business owners and the structures that we get into, that we the LLCs, the S corps, and we get told so much, about that. That's a game that we get sold into, and once you realize the options, you realize that okay, you're kind of being duped. This LLC, this S corp, this isn't the end all be all. It isn't the ultimate way for you to lower your tax bill. There are actually other ways that the tax code has in place. um, but once again, everything that I deal with is based out of that. The life insurance is based off of incentives in the tax code. We deal with a lot of trust, but we deal with trust in the same sense. Like I was saying, like JD Rockefeller. It's how people have these trusts as limited partners to their businesses. Their trusts own the intellectual property, the company name, the contact with the client list, the company bylaws. It's a way for you to own, right? You look at the Walton family, Walmart. That's that intellectual. That company started that. They own that.
Mhm.
So it's a way for us as business owners to start looking differently at how we're going to start, structuring our businesses, how we're going to deal with the IRS, because you can't avoid them. It don't matter how you feel about them. You can't avoid them. You start making over so much, trust and believe everybody you do business with is filing and paying their taxes. There's a paper trail that leads back, and they know exactly how much you owe. It's up to you to figure out how you can minimize that and how you can, not create taxable events. And so that's why I like to just tell a lot of business, look, just go to the website, indiatinfinite.com. Um, Schedule a discovery call. We'll sit down. I have no problem, doing consultations and explaining to people how this works and how you can actually change yourself to work like this, the ultra wealthy. How you can set yourself up for generational wealth, and the things that seem like they're only for people who have millions and billions of dollars. You can do that with your income, and you can create opportunities and leverage in your life as well. It's feasible. It's
Man,
Trust me, it's possible.
love this. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
So yeah,
I also
All right.
that's
wanted
it.
to
So
tell you that
how do
too.
we reach you, Sheila?
Huh?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Final thoughts, Miss Angela. Um, Hey,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
also wanted to add. No, I also wanted to add that for anybody doing business, even the simplest things as putting in reels. You know, you spoke, Johnny. You spoke about leveraging your YouTube pages and the TikToks and everything, but now there is a way that you can just put simple pictures up and a message and let that go on a reel on any platform. You can start monetizing money just by putting out pictures every other minute, every other hour, just throughout the day, so that you can capture that information and the analytics can go into different platforms, and then places like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, they will pay you for doing simple things, just as you said with the YouTube as well.
absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a good
All
thing to
different
kind
way,
of really
all
doing
different
now too.
ways of
So
creating leverage and getting
yeah,
that dollar. There's so many different ways.
yeah,
You were right.
yep.
100%.
All right. So, Miss Sheila, any final thoughts?
Oh, I just want to thank you for the information. Definitely was important. I would ask the audience to watch our YouTube, our podcast, which is Elevating Life. We changed it to tomorrow, so that's on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock, and then the What Will My Daddy Say show, which is Thursdays at 8 o'clock, and that's where me and my dad kind of, have a conversation about, just being single and dating, and just kind of like a man's advice into a woman's world. And yeah, follow and subscribe, at I Am Shaping Solutions, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Shaping Solutions. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you. Thank you, Johnny Leverage. I just
Thank
scheduled my
you.
appointment.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
It's been an honor to be here, guys. I thank you so much for the knowledge, for the space where we can come together as individuals and really maximize
Absolutely.
all that we
Yep.
have in order
Yep.
for us to go at life different and change our community, because we're changing our
Yeah.
community and we're changing the world.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We are changing the world, one person at a time, one heart at a time. So let's continue to go. Jay, you brother Jay, you there? Is it you having a little technical difficulty?